public session of the Normandy Schools Collaborative Joint Executive Governing Board. At this time, I would like to ask Ms. Rigsby to call us to order through a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Director Dr. Petty,
Here.
Director Milton Roberts,
Here.
Director Pearson,
Present.
Director Edwards,
Present.
Secretary Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Humphrey,
Present.
and President Hodge.
Present. Present. We do have a quorum, so at this time, I would ask all to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which is one nation under God. Thank you all for your attendance this evening. We are very excited for several reasons. Before we jump into that, we would like to remind everyone of our board norms, which is item number 2 on our agenda. And I'm going to ask Director Pearson if she would review our board norms.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We use facts and data to inform our decisions in accordance with the interests of the overall district as a whole and not any particular segment thereof. We will support the delegation of authority of the superintendent in the day-to-day district operations and act in accordance with the 6 governing documents. We support the board decisions. We come to the board meetings informed and prepared. We honor our elected role by being in attendance. We will honor our voices by encouraging individual input and listening to others.
Thank you, Director Pearson. We will move on to item 3.01, the approval of the agenda. However, at this moment, I do have a request for a modification to our agenda. It lists under item 6 for item for information 6.01 the school presentations for this evening as Washington and Normandy High School. We do need a motion to amend this agenda to read Barack Obama and Lucas, the middle school, for item 6.01 in that presentation. Is there a motion?
So,
It has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Thank you so much. With that amendment, we all have had an opportunity to look over the agenda, and so I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as it exists.
so move.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? Thank you. The ayes have it. Tonight, as we typically do, we have an item 4, which is public comments. We do encourage comments at this meeting. We do want to hear the voice of our community, and we're going to ask Norm to review our norms for our public comments.
Absolutely. Good evening, Board President, members of the board, superintendent, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank you for attending tonight's Normandy Schools Collaborative Board of Education meeting. But before we begin, we will review the importance of conducting a productive and orderly meeting. For those community members in attendance who have signed up for public comments, please come to the podium when the board president calls your name. Out of respect for everyone in attendance, yelling, foul language, props, visuals, and addressing the audience are not permitted. Public speakers may not identify staff or students by name. In addition, audience members are not allowed to speak, yell, or cause any disruption during public comments. This ensures the Board of Education is able to listen and transition to the next speaker. The remainder of the meeting is designated for the board to work with the superintendent and staff to conduct the work as outlined in the agenda. Patrons who stay in attendance for the remainder of the meeting after public comments do so in an observatory role. Please note that those who disrupt the meeting in any capacity will be asked to leave and may lose the opportunity to attend future meetings. Thank you for attending, and we will proceed with the agenda.
Thank you so much. With that, I'd call on our first and only board comments for this evening, Deanna Davis.
Good evening. My name is Deanna Davis Day. I am a parent, alumni, and a former staff member of the Normandy Schools Collaborative. I believe the 16th of September, I sent a detailed request to the board and the superintendent. I've not received a response. I'm requesting a response in writing, whether it's the board or the superintendent. I'd like a response in writing to my request. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 5.01, recognitions. 5.01, Normandy Schools Collaborative welcomes our international teachers. Are we ready? Chris is going to do a special presentation tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, board members, Board President Hodge, Superintendent Triplett. We know that teacher shortage is a national challenge impacting school districts across St. Louis and across the country. In response, Normandy Schools Collaborative has taken proactive steps to ensure that our students receive a high-quality education by recruiting highly qualified and certified international teachers. On September 13th, the first group of 26 international teachers arrived and were welcomed by staff at Normandy Schools Collaborative at the airport. Over the following 2 weeks, to ensure that they are prepared to enter our classrooms, they participated in extensive professional development activities, just to make sure that they can integrate seamlessly into our classrooms. The second cohort of international teachers are expected soon, and will continue with the professional development to ensure that they are ready for classroom. We would like to take this opportunity to recognize the tireless efforts of Kawana Gilliard, who is our Chief Human Resources Officer. She's not here this evening. Dr. Tiffany McConnell, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, who helped plan the extensive professional development. And Imehi Brown, who is a human resources recruiter, who really took up the challenge to help with the international teachers with housing and transportation on their first couple of weeks here. So we'd like to take this opportunity to recognize EJ, who is here, and our international teachers who are here in the audience.
We would ask all of our international teachers to stand. One of the things that I would love to point out right now is that you have joined a community. We love and cherish all of our educators in this region. We continually say that one of the noblest professions in our nation and the world is teaching. And we believe that we have been very fortunate to recruit you to be a part of this team in the Normandy Schools Collaborative. And so we just want to give you a resounding welcome and thank you for being a part of our mission in this school district. We stand for you. I do know that one of our international teachers is from the Philippines. Is that right? I'll be on standby because we did say if you do have remarks or words, we would love to have you come forward, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm Gladys. I'm Gladys Nestor Barangan from the Philippines, but before I came here, I started my teaching journey, international teaching journey in Cambodia. And again, my salute to all my co-teachers here from the Philippines who fly or who came here and who traveled 24 hours, 26 hours just to reach the United States of America. Um, thank you for your very, very warm welcome. I'm a little bit nervous, and it's not normal for this kind of people who really give us this very, very good welcome. And we know this is a challenge to all of us since we are all new to this country, and at the same time new to this place, but we are lifting everything to God because we know that with God nothing is impossible.
Okay. Yeah.
For 2 weeks, some of us are still in the period of adjusting in weather, yeah, food, of course, because we are all Asian and we love rice. We cannot live without rice. That's why EJ is working with our food during the professional development. Of course, with transportation, because we are still working with our transportations. We are studying every bus stops, train stops. So, and of course, we are all adjusting to our students and to the curriculum itself. All my fellow international teachers has their own stories to tell. I cannot personally share them to all of you, but I'm sure each story is worth it. Please bear with us because we are still working in progress. But we promise to support and we'll do our very best to contribute to the teaching and learning process of our students here in Normandy Schools Collaborative. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you so much. We're going to ask Chris to come back. We do have a special recognition here tonight for Bill Noor.
Correct. And so I'm not going to speak too much about this, but on September, September 24th, Normandy welcomed its second um,
Believe Project.
thank you. Its second Believe Project Lab. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Brooks, who's going to fill you in with a little more information about this project and upcoming projects as well.
Good evening, Superintendent. Good evening, President Hodge and board members. Briefly, the Belief Project is an initiative headed by Julius B. Anthony, who is adamant about literacy for our students, especially in this region. He and his team have done a great job of dedicating rooms and labs to students in the metro area to ensure that they have an opportunity to focus solely on literacy improvement. Normandy has been blessed to have so far 2 labs that are here, and we're working on 13, which will be in Washington. And then after that, another one at the middle school, which is new because the focus has been on elementary schools. So they'll be transitioning for the first time, according to Mr. Anthony, solely because of Dr. Triplett's will to get it done. I want to invite Mr. Julius B. Anthony to come up here briefly so he can have a couple words while he comes up. I want to thank the maintenance team. They did an excellent job and continue to do so. Mr. Anthony's team, the support of the board and the superintendent for the work that's has been done, as well as Mr. West at Bell Noor, where Project 12 just finished. Mr. Anthony.
All right, good evening, President Hodge and Superintendent Triplett, and to the entire board.
Good evening. Good evening.
I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity to be a partner in Normandy Schools Collaborative with you in this quest to ensure that all of your students are successful readers. That is our mission, and that is our intention as we work within the schools here. On behalf of St. Louis Black Authors of Children's Literature and our primary partner, Community Impact Network, we are pleased to be part of this family. As Dr. Brooks stated, our very first lab in the district was at Barack Obama School. That was our sixth lab in the city. We have now opened Believe 12, which is at Belle Noire. We hope to open Believe 13 at Washington in December. And in the spring, St. Louis Black Authors will open its very first Believe Middle School, which will be at Lucas Crossing Middle School. Yes. And this is because of Dr. Triplett. He encouraged me to do this. He told me that that is where the real work is, and I agree with him. And so we're excited to start this initiative here at Normandy. As a result, I have brought gifts for the board. We weren't able to present this at the opening at Belle Noire, so I would like to present that this evening if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
So we have a digital copy of the announcement for Believe 12, and we also blew up the picture that the board took in the Believe lab for the board as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Take a picture of his board. Board, go take a picture. All of us. Yeah, board, yeah. Oh, board. Yeah, the board. Board.
Thank you, Dr. Anthony. We are honored and grateful for your investment in our district. And again, thank you for the recognition and the gifts this evening. Chris.
We also want to take this time to recognize high school principal Gerald Nave, who's been nominated to receive the prestigious Apple for the Teacher Annual Educators Award, presented by Iota Phi Lambda Sorority. This organization comprises business and professional women who are passionately committed to ensuring a quality education for all children. The awards luncheon will be held on Saturday, November 23rd, which is right in the middle of Education Week. So we want to congratulate Mr. Nave.
Thank you, Chris. With that, we will move on to item 6, items for information. At this point, we have school presentations this evening. Our first presentation is going to be from Barack Obama.
Which one is it? Is it this? Which one is it?
Maybe I call them out of order.
Down it. Down, yeah. Get down. Is it down here? This what we can. It's not even. She doesn't want to.
If we could go back to the middle school, and then we can figure that out unless we'll just switch for now. Thank you. We'll start with Normandy Middle School.
Good evening to the board, Dr. Triplett, and all stakeholders that are present today. I am the proud principal of Normandy Middle School, and I have just a few updates. Okay, our enrollment status, action plan, and impact for this year. Our projected enrollment was 713 students. We actually have 624 as of this slide, but I think it's actually 639 according to Power School right now. We were able to review registrations at the beginning of the school year and determine who was in attendance, who was not in attendance, make phone calls to parents, send letters home, and if necessary, we made home visits as well to try to figure out the discrepancy between the 624 and the 713. Our demographics, what you're looking at is the demographics for 23 and 24. As you can see, we had 51 sixth graders, 227 seventh graders, and 236 eighth graders. This year, we have 222 sixth graders, 185 seventh graders, and 232 eighth graders. Our 90-90 attendance. So for 22-23 school year, started off at 77% roughly. The last date for collection was in March. Attendance was at 61% roughly. 23-24 was 98%. And ending in April, the last data collected was 61%. This year, we started at 93%. And we are currently at 88%. So the attendance goals are based on semesters. So our attendance dropped with the threats. The goal now is at the end of semester one, we'll be back at 90% at minimum. And then second semester, once we hit the 90, we'll shoot for the 93 again. But we just want to be above the 90-90 attendance rate for the year. We have an attendance team. We meet weekly. We look at, excuse me, go back. Whoop, back. We look at our trends in attendance, you know, students who are absent, students who are tardy. We talk about those students, put interventions in place, call parents, make home visits as necessary, just so we are aware of where our students are and what is going on. Discipline for 23 and 24. I'm looking specifically at the out-of-school suspensions. There's about 460-ish suspensions just for last year. And so far this year, in August, we had 15. September, we had 28. By the end of semester one, that should say 75%. From those 469, I would love for our suspensions to decrease by 75%. We are only suspending if there's a physical altercation. Those students that are suspended, kids act out because there's underlying reasons. So to suspend them and just put them out of school, I don't think that's effective. We want to find out what is the reason why they are fighting, what's going on, get to the bottom of it. And I think in of itself is helping to curb behaviors. So we're looking at the trends, we're identifying the underlying issues, putting in proactive strategies, reaching out to our wraparound service providers, our student counselor, and anyone who is available just to assist. And some kids, we know that they need additional supports, and those are our tier 3 kids, and we make sure that they get what they need as well. Did I skip one? Nope. Academics, last year for ELA, Let me look at the right slide. 269 kids, I'm working backwards. 269 were 3 or more grade levels below. And this year we have 273 students, 3 or more grade levels below. Data's roughly the same, so we have a lot of work to do. In math, last year, 256 students, 3 or more grade levels below. And then this year, 284 students, 3 or more grade levels below. So we're about the same place with ELA and with math. The goal is that we move all students. You know, we want all students on or above grade level, but we have to be realistic and smart with our goals, which is what is being shown now. We've used the iReady data to determine where students are and where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, and what do we need to do to move the students. So in ELA, focuses on the students who are 1 to 2 years below grade level and moving them to grade level, 25%. In math, 37% of them who are 3 to 5 grade levels below, moving them to grade level. 7th grade ELA and math, both ELA and math, 25% of the students who are 1 to 2 grade levels below, moving them to grade level, and 30% of those students in the 1 to 2 year range for ELA and math, moving them to grade level. And that is my presentation. I am happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Dr. Sutton. For those present tonight, we have made a priority of hearing from our priority schools at these meetings. And so we appreciate your presentation tonight, and we want you to know that you have the full support of this board and the community. You have a very heavy lift, and so we appreciate you being with us tonight. We're going to open it up for questions from the board, but I want you to know that these questions come from a place of curiosity for how we can help lift the load, right? And so, with that being said, I'm going to start with Dr. Petty.
Good evening. I have no questions at this time. I look forward to the realized outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Petty. I think Cheryl Milton Roberts is next to
Yes.
Dr. Petty.
I'm actually not going to ask a question, but I'm going to share something. I actually got to spend the first day of school with Miss Dr. Sutton, and I want to say that I was very impressed. I'm so glad that you're here. We had lots of students that showed up that she didn't know were coming, and she had the most organized, upbeat approach to everything she did, including the students that we had that did not speak English. And she had she just, I mean, everybody was upbeat, positive, and it was just really a pleasure working with you that day. And so it was really cool seeing how you do what you do. Okay, so I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Milton Roberts. Director Pearson.
Good evening. Thank you for your presentation. Um, as a parent of a middle schooler, I like how things are moving this year as opposed to last year. My only question is, what key factors are you doing for parent involvement?
So this Tuesday will be our first PTG. That's the first part. And so I'm working with the FELS and we have some activities planned, but I do plan to have regular PTG meetings. This month is anti-bullying, National Anti-Bullying Month. So I want the focus of these PTG meetings upcoming to focus around bullying. I am working on a parent newsletter just to open up communication, but right now I'm just focused on getting our PTG up and rolling so we can bring in our parents and community.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Director Pearson. Director Edwards.
PTG is parent teacher group. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that. I just want to say welcome to the Normandy School District. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, but I've heard great things about you, and welcome to the district. I have no questions.
Thank you. Glad to be.
Thank you, Director Edwards. Secretary Taylor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the presentation. I have not had the opportunity to meet you as well. I do have a question though. Those students that, where you may mention that you all are trying to reach out to the parents, have you had any success in that? And have those children that you have, uh, you said a lot of them are 2 or 3 grade levels below. Have you expressed to those parents, how important it is that we get those children to, come to class and, be attentive to make sure that they are learning?
I can't say specifically to share already results with the parents, but grades and progress thus far, yes. Attendance thus far, yes.
Are the parents receptive to you
Yes.
when you're reaching out?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they're curious. They want to know, what's being done and how they can help.
Okay, we appreciate that because that's what we really want. We want the parents to be involved with their children, as well as be involved with the school district as well. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Secretary Taylor. Vice President Humphrey.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. As was mentioned earlier, I did have an occasion to meet you on the first day of school when I stopped by, and it was, as she said before, was very refreshing and welcoming to see how you managed. It's as we describe it, it was organized chaos on the first day. Uh, the question I have for you is, I know that it's a heavy lift. You talk about kids that are multiple years behind in their learning. As you're starting to look at the data, do you have any general sense of what the root cause has been for that underperformance?
I wouldn't say one root cause. I would say a combination of a few different things. It could be COVID, could be suspensions out of school, not receiving the resources that they need. So some learning disabilities going unchecked, not having certified teachers in the classroom, attendance. I think it's just a combination of several factors.
And I think, understanding that, I think it'll be very, very interesting, having ongoing conversation with you as as your PLCs are up, as you're starting to look at your already data. Hopefully, at some point, the superintendent will have you come back and just give us kind of an update, as you start to dig into the data to get to better nuance an answer to that question. Because I know ultimately, in order to drive the results you're looking for, we got to figure out how they got there. So at that point, that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you, Vice President Humphrey. Um, Thank you for your presentation. 2 questions. You mentioned there was a drop in attendance after the threats,
Yes.
and I want you to paint a picture for us about the best way to respond to that and what you need from our community. And the second question is, um, what are we doing with those students, particularly those students who had infractions that they would have previously been suspended for? What are we doing with those students now?
Can you repeat the first
The
question?
first question is about the drop in attendance related to the threats which you mentioned, and how are we responding to that?
Responding as in improving the attendance?
Yeah, I certainly hope that we will not experience those threats again. However, we do need to be prepared to mitigate those kinds of threats and to respond to them in the future. Have we begun to develop a plan or a thought about how we can reduce these threats? What do you need from the community to sort of support students in that way?
I have not thought about a plan.
Okay.
I guess I just hope that they don't
Let me
happen
be real
again.
direct about this. I've,
Thank you.
I've got to, I've got to, I've got to, I want to understand the role that media, social media, and cell phones play in our middle school.
They play a vast, they're big, it's everything. A lot of it did happen through social media. Cell phones are an issue, and if cell phones were not, and it's not even just that they're at school because they're obviously using phones, social media at home, but it's a thing. And if we could mitigate that, then a lot of this would not happen.
What would you like if all of our parents did exactly what you asked them to do, right?
Mhm.
What would you have them do?
Keep cell phones at home.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
And I think we heard that. Keep the cell phones at home. Great. The second question was around those students who have infractions that would have previously been suspended. If we're not suspending them, how are we correcting them in the school building?
We've been doing lots of remediation circles with students, just talking about what's going on. Um, Parent conferences, sending them to their trusted adult. Lots of conversations have been going on, mediations. We have a restorative room. We don't call it ISS, it's restorative. So they talk to them about the behaviors as well. They have assignments based on the behavior so that they can read about it, think about it, talk about it, and make a plan moving forward. How are you going to respond the next time? Um, just not suspending them.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your commitment.
Yes.
And we don't have any other questions. Thank you so much for your presentation and for your service tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can clap for our middle school principal. As we transition, I think we've got the presentation ready for Barack Obama. Would you all just help me just for a moment? Our school board members are very committed to being here and serving this district, even when they've got a lot of personal things happening. And I happen to know that one of our board members has a personal celebration that she's missing to be here to celebrate with us. So could you all just join me in saying happy birthday to Director Edwards? Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Director Erica Edwards. To you, to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent. Good evening, Board, and good evening, audience. These are updates for Barack Obama Elementary. I'm Dr. Burgess. Our projected enrollment was 270. We are actually at 240 as of today. Our enrollment status, action plan, and impact. Initially, we were aware that parents struggled with the enrollment process. So what we did was set up stations at Barack Obama for parents to come in to help support them with the enrollment process. Reaching out to parents who we knew students had not returned to get them in, to get students enrolled, and just ensuring that we supported parents with that process. Currently, we are still reaching out to families who we have not heard from to see where they are and to try to get them in. Our demographics, 2023, 2024, we had 397 total enrollment, but we had first through sixth grade. This year, we are first through fifth grade, and we are at 240 students. For our 90-90 data, Power School does not give us the 90-90 data, so our attendance clerk does all of that by hand. For August, we did meet the 90-90 goal, and for September, we were at 85%, so we didn't meet the 90-90 goal. Our action plan, we have weekly attendance meetings. From those meetings, we discuss those students who are struggling. So a lot of the concerns for our students are early dismissals, not necessarily absences. And so we are having conversations with parents about the importance of having students in school for the full day. Having conversations about when you miss an hour a day times 5 days a week is equivalent to an entire day of school. And so just communicating that importance to them. We are working with the FAIL to do home visits. And then just trying to find out if there are transportation concerns, what the concerns are around the early releases. Our infractions, last year in September, we had 34 out of school suspensions. This year, we had 0 in August, we had 8 in September. As of today for October, we've had 3. The goal is to keep students in school. Suspensions are not necessarily effective. The goal is to implement wraparound services. I have met with a few wraparound services in regards to social emotional support and had meetings with the counselor to implement character education lessons within the classroom. And for those tier 3 students to have a small group counseling sessions with them to help teach them strategies for how to deal with the concerns that they're having. And that goes with the goal and the action plan. So we are having care team meetings to determine if there are unidentified concerns, maybe testing for a possible IEP if that's a concern. We're also looking at classroom management, what's going on in the classroom, communicating with families, monitoring the data, and then we're also incentivizing students. For our iReady data, more than 80% in every single grade level at Barack Obama are between 1 to 3 grade levels below in ELA, and the same for math. So our goals and action plan are to implement PLCs to monitor the data, to determine interventions to use within the classroom. Once again, going back to care teaming to determine if there are other concerns that need to be addressed. We're looking at attendance to see if maybe attendance is a concern. So we're trying to look at the big picture for why these babies are 1 or more grade levels below, but not just looking at the concern, but addressing them through interventions, professional learning communities. We've created a guided coalition to bring parents, staff, board members together to see if we can come up with additional strategies that probably maybe I haven't thought of or haven't considered. And that is the
Great. Thank you, Dr. Burgess. Again, we are here to support. We appreciate the hard work that you're doing, and we want to know how we can support. I'm going to start with Vice President Humphrey.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I know that the other day we did have an opportunity to have some initial conversations because it's my understanding that I'll be the board person assigned at Barack Obama for the turnaround committee. And so we did have an introductory conversation that I believe was very fruitful. And I know in the coming months, the issue around kids 1, 2, and 3 years behind in learning, we're going to conquer that.
Yes.
We're going to figure it out, and in the future meetings coming, all we're going to do is talk about the success of our kids because, as what was the coach from Jackson State? What's his name? Went to Colorado. Deion Sanders. He made a statement. He said, "We coming. We coming."
we're coming. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. Secretary Taylor.
Good evening. Thank you for your presentation. I heard you make mention about some information that you were not able to attain. Is that the Power 2?
The Power
Power
School.
School. Is there an issue with it that it's not allowing you to get the data that you need?
There's not an issue, it's just not available.
It's not available.
Mhm.
Okay. So is this something that just happened? Because I know it went into effect, I believe, the latter part of last year. Just wondering if it's something if it's an ongoing problem.
So Power Schools is set up differently from SIS K-12. So the information that you could gather from SIS K-12, you can't necessarily get that same information from Power School.
Okay. So is it something that can be corrected or?
I don't know because I'm not completely familiar with the Power School program. I'm sure that possibly we could reach out to Power Schools to see if that's a possibility to add that.
Okay, and the reason I ask that because I know all of the different programs and the curriculums that we have voted on and allowed to come into the school. When the presentations are made, they're always saying to, if there's a problem, we'll be here to fix it. And so when you made mention that you were not able to get the information, that's why I asked the question.
Okay.
So, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Secretary Taylor. Director Edwards.
Thank you for being here this evening. I have two questions. The first is, what are some major challenges that you're having at your school right now, and some of the resolutions that you put in place to address those challenges? And also, what is your plan for your Title I funds for this school year?
So major challenges are just the early releases, which I spoke to earlier, and just addressing that head on with the parents, determining if there are supports that they need, and just bringing to their attention how that is a concern. And with the Title I funds, I'm looking into professional development around culture. And as of, let's see, August, looking into having a Leader in Me school where students become leaders and start to take on the responsibility of understanding how they make up the school. So using Title I funds for teacher development and student development.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Edwards. I want to take a pause for just one moment. If you would, I'd like to allow our international teachers to exit and take care of what you need to take care of in preparation for tomorrow. So thank you so much for being here this evening. If we can recognize them with another round of applause, and thank you for being here this evening. Feel free if you need to leave, please go. If you'd like to stay, you're welcome to stay with us. We may stay here for another 3 hours. I just don't want you to be subjected to that. No, we're on track to end this meeting in the next 45 minutes, but we do want to give you an opportunity to leave. Thank you so much. Thank you. Director Pearson.
Good evening, Dr. Virgin.
Good evening.
Thank you for your presentation. I have no questions.
Thank you, Director Pearson. Director Milton Roberts.
Well, I'm going to do another compliment because I actually got to visit your school as well. And I want to say thank you for welcoming me and thank you for letting me kind of, see how you do what you do. You were actually, when I got to visit you, you were actually managing lunch duty and was doing that very gracefully. And one of the things I really appreciated was that you were allowing the kids to be kids so they could talk and they could interact and so forth. And that sometimes doesn't happen. So I was very excited to see that. The question that I would like to ask, given that you know that you have students that are a little bit, not where you want them to be and so forth, what additional supports, what things do you need from us? Counselors, interventionists, teachers, what is it that you need from us?
You mean as far as behavior discipline?
As far as supports, I mean, what do you, I mean, if you had a perfect wish list, what would it entail?
It would be wraparound services, so counseling, in-house,
Okay.
even for family counseling.
Some more practitioners that can actually help with those types of things.
Yeah, that would be the biggest thing, the number one thing.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know because I'm trying to. And then you mentioned also that you were trying not to have kids out of school. So what exactly happens with those children? You said that you're working with them and talking and so forth. But do you do like ISS or what kinds of things do you do?
Conferences, conversations, problem solving. That's it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Milton Roberts. Director Petty.
Good evening. Just one question. Is there any research in particular that principals are referencing around suspensions and how to respond to student infractions of the student code of conduct?
So not how to respond to the student code of conduct, but yes, around suspensions, there is research.
I know it is, but is there any research in particular that principals are utilizing as they attempt to reduce the suspensions?
Not specific research.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
The question I would ask is, in your school, do you have before and after care?
No.
You do not. Okay. So when you're thinking about early dismissals and so forth, is that something that might have bearing, that might help?
Yes. Mhm. We have had parents ask about before and after care.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Petty. One question, how has your experience been working with Solution Tree?
Um, it's been positive. It's been positive. It's been information that I'm familiar with, but it's been positive.
And the teachers in your building, have they found the coaching in particular and support beneficial?
Yes, we've only had the literacy coach so far, and yes. So the literacy coach works directly with the district coach
Okay.
to determine staffing needs.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to item 6.02, we have Jossie Hayes here from KAI, who's going to give us an update on Prop V.
Good evening, Dr. Triplett, Superintendent. Good evening, Mr. Hodge, Vice President, and the parents and people and staff in the back who are very interested in their children. I'm super excited to see that. So I wanted to give this presentation on our Prop V. This is just a reminder of the projects that we undertook. There were 3 different contracts, 4 projects. We were able to manage under the 7% for construction and unforeseen conditions only. Given all the challenges on the project, this is a great feat, and I just wanted to continue to highlight this. This is the contract amendment process. We were holding to these standards all throughout the project, and I would say that this holding these standards have allowed us, not only by doing this, but also having a collected board and support from Dr. Triplett and the teams that have been put in place by staff and board members who were at these meetings religiously, making sure that we can continue to move forward. This is the completion dates. We'll get close to the mic here. West Hall is complete. SCA is complete. East Hall is complete. Central Hall is complete. So Bell Ridge bus lot improvements, that's to be determined. The boardroom is scheduled to be ended on the first quarter of 2025. We have additional facilities support that are scheduled to be ending on the fourth quarter of 2025. That includes Viking Hall, cosmetic upgrades, new track with concession stands, state stand updates, new turf football field. Here's a picture of the rotunda, the ribbon cutting. We have finished the substantial completion, as you all know, was established on A14. The punch list process is fully completed, and we have final retention that has been released to Wright Construction, and then we were able to commence with the ribbon cutting, which was held on 9/21. You see the beautiful faces there, and excellence that was there in that space. It was awesome. It was a hot day, but we were able to cut that ribbon and get inside that cool air. This is just some pictures of the Central Hall, the most recent project that was completed. If you hadn't had a chance to go see this, I think most have, but if you hadn't, it's very hard to look at these pictures and remember what it used to look like. So I think what I'll do is show some before and after pictures just for the purpose of remembering. Here's a picture of the band room, orchestra rooms. They're complete. We do have some punch list items in here, but they're being addressed as we speak. Moving on to the boardroom, this is a picture of the current state. It has been fully demoed. I wanted to take a moment just to talk about the process that Dr. Triplett has asked us to forego to go for doing this project is to make sure that we have everything covered. We're taking the time now to make sure before we start this project, it's going to be a state-of-the-art conference room. No longer will you have to be wondering what's on the screen. They'll be able to see it from over there, make those different edits right here. But there's a lot of thinking that has to go into this, and I've asked the team to take a little bit step backwards to measure twice and cut once. So that's where we are right now. And I just want to make sure that's clear that we are moving in the right direction. This is an older building, just like all the other buildings we've touched. And unfortunately, as we started to dig into the details, we found some things. So nothing to be alarmed, but just to make sure that the current HVAC systems are working correctly, lighting, electrical, all those different things need to be considered. And also the AV and how it works with the way the school wants it to work and how we're going to make this happen. So I just want to take a little time on that. Here's a picture of the current facility, what's going to be put in place. Here's a rendering of that facility that we're working on. There will be a lot of great things in this space. I think everybody's going to be happy once it's complete. Here's items that I kind of spoke about earlier, but just to go into further detail, the current amendment extension is to conclude preliminary findings for the football field. We'll make sure the track is going to be regulation. There'll be updates to the press box. We'll replace the grass with artificial turf. There'll be lights for nighttime. There'll be a new video board, scoreboard, walking path around the track. Preliminary findings for the cosmetic upgrades to Viking Hall. Now we're going to try to keep this very light on that project, but the goal is to just give it a light refresh and really focus on the concession stand, the seats, and then the transition strip around the basketball court. I've been working closely with Evelyn and Mr. Brooks on the project that is concerning the bus lot. Today we had a walk with Highland just to talk about the scope. I wanted to make sure that there's no rock is unturned. Dr. Triple has asked that KAI, we stay involved, we make sure that we are working with the school, making sure that there's nothing being missed. I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware that there will be some more reports bringing about this and the project and the success of how we're going to move forward. This is just another picture of the work that's going to be done. As I get more details, we will provide more information. Here's a picture or rendering of the new football field. It's going to be the proud Viking location for a great tracking field. Like I said, it's going to be great football here. It's going to be night lights. It's going to be a beautiful scoreboard. We had the opportunity to walk with some members from the staff and Dr. Triplett. We went to visit other fields that are similar in the region that these particular vendors had put together. So we have a pretty good insight on what we want, and we're ready to move forward with this particular project in the sense of getting the design going. Funds allocated to the project. Again, this was something that was put together, but it's the funds that have been allocated for the project. As you can see at the top is the Prop B funds at $26 million. That was what was allocated for the project. It wasn't enough to finish the whole project. So as we talk about amendments, we started to look at different ways to get funding. That was a school's initiative, and they were able to get these other areas in place so that we can have more money to finish the project with the total budget of $44 million. Cost changes. Currently, we are tracking a potential contract amount of spending $38 million. That is below the 44. We'll talk about that later, but we are tracking the completion of this project, just closing out the items. There are not a lot of extra costs that we should be allocating. It's just cleaning up the project and making sure we go through the process of closeout. The business utilization. So our goal was 25% for MBE, minority business enterprises. These are minority businesses that are owned by either African American, Asian, or other nationalities that are not considered the majority. So the 25% was the goal, but we were able to exceed that by getting it to 33%. WBE, it was a 5% goal. 3% was what we were able to accomplish, and the reason behind that is because there's not a lot of women businesses around, and we need more females in the construction industry. So it's a representation of our region. So, but I'm happy that we were able to meet the 3%. So we were able to provide ample opportunities for people to be successful in their business. But funds, this is just an allocation of the savings that we've been able to realize over the project. We are still continuing to find more savings and put into a kitty that we'll talk about later as we talk about encumbered funds. School outreach. Currently, I've recently talked with some students. We're having next week is construction inclusion week, where we celebrate diversity in the construction industry, and I've invited some students to come out to this event so they can meet other minority businesses who are in the field, so they can have an opportunity to engage, talk, and explore the opportunities that are afforded to folks who are interested in the construction industry. But this is just a reminder of the things that some of the things that we were involved in throughout the course of the project, and also recently and through the recent months. And moving on.
Jesse, I'm going to give you a 1-minute warning here.
All right, I'm wrapping up right now. So this is the cutting of the rotunda, and I'm done here with the questions.
Oh, look at that. He was even before that 1 minute. He's awesome. And so I'm going to remind our board to also, we're going to try to move through this quickly. If you have questions at this time, let's ask and get some brief answers to those questions, starting with Dr. Petty.
Point of clarity, is any of the work that you're doing being funded outside of Prop V?
Any of the work being funded outside of?
Any of the work that you're mentioning in tonight's presentation, is any of it being funded outside of Prop V?
Not outside of Prop V, but there's other funding sources that were allocated for the project. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
What were those other funding sources?
ESSER funds, they're listed here. This is what I received from the school. It should be in your packet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Milton Roberts.
Well, first off, thank you for all your work and for the presentation. I just had a question, and it maybe it's just me. So we're working on the field and so forth. Is there any plan to do anything with the ninth grade academy to make it come into compliance with what we've got at the high school?
Currently, there's nothing in place at the current moment, but I know there are conversations about doing things for the campus at large.
Okay, and then the last piece, is there any, and I think you and I talked about this, is there any money that's been set aside for dealing with the landscaping and so forth at the high school, or is that not part of the plan?
No, not none of my purview. I think that's handled in the maintenance department.
Thank you, Director Milton Roberts. Director Pearson.
Good evening, Jocelyn.
Good evening.
I think that you took a shot at me earlier getting at the microphone, but I appreciate it because, yes, I'm glad that these things are complete. Being a graduate of Normandy, I'm glad to see the building looks nice. I have had the opportunity of touring the building, not just during the ribbon cutting, but in general, and it looks nice. Thank you. I have two questions, or three. The first one is, you mentioned the bus lot. Will that bus lot include the equipment for the EV buses?
Yes.
Okay. And then you said home seats for Viking Hall. Will they be the same style seating that's in there now? Or are you trying to change the style seating?
We're sticking to similar but updated, just newer seats, more comfortable. We're still in the process of selecting that. So,
Okay.
but the goal is to make it better.
And then the next question is for the restrooms in Viking Hall. Will those I forgot what you called them, the pillars, the doors, and all of that. Will that be renovated?
Restrooms?
Yes.
The restrooms are currently not in scope. We're just focused on the basketball court, the things that I listed. Those are is specific to that.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Director Edwards.
Thank you, Jossie. You a hard-working man with a plan. I know you're tired, ain't you? Because you've been working so hard on this project. I appreciate you so much. Um, I have a question, and I don't know if this is the proper place to pose this question, but I do understand that we are operating with this project under budget, right at 38 million. I believe you said with the allocation of 44, which leaves us about 6 million roughly, correct?
That's correct.
So I'm asking that because I have interest in the lighting within our district facilities. We have we know our facilities are dated and lighting has been an issue at many of our schools. So I wanted to know if that's possible to implement that in some type of way or make way. I don't know again if this is the right place to pose this question, but it's just something that I would like to ask.
For the rest of some time, I think there's another section that I will be addressing those types of questions.
Thank you, Director Edwards. Secretary Taylor.
Thank you again for your presentation. Director Milton Roberts hit on the same question that I was going to ask because my granddaughter is a ninth grader at the high school, and she has said to me about how it's outdated. And so I understand the need to make the field, renovate the field, but I'm just saying, me personally, maybe we should consider, I don't know if it's something you and superintendent has to discuss. I don't know if it's something that the board has to discuss, but maybe we need to consider doing some renovations to that North Hall where the ninth graders are at. And I believe that's North Hall.
Yeah, Northwest where we currently have our offices. Yeah.
So that's my concern because, like I say, my granddaughter, she's in that building, and she said to me, multiple times about even the first week of school. So just want to put it out there. That's just a concern of mine.
Thank you, Secretary Taylor. Mr. Humphrey.
First of all, thank you for your presentation. I do not have any questions for tonight because I ask all my questions in the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I have no questions. Thank you for your presentation this evening, and thank you for being with us. Moving on to item 6.03, financial summary, year to date. I think Mr. Carlton Brooks, and I'm going to put a time limit on you, Dr. Brooks. Congratulations. We're going to see if we can keep this within 8 minutes. And time is ticking.
Get up. Yes, you blame it on the tech guy. He's actually tech guy.
7 minutes.
Is this right?
We're going to have to email everybody the presentation.
I do want to introduce our new tech to the community. This is Kareem. Yay, Kareem. All right.
Put the pressure on.
Kareem was recently hired by the tech department, and we're really happy to have him aboard. We're going to get through this.
Hot up there.
This update pretty quickly. I do want to mention, Jossie, some of the questions that you, the board, were asking with regard to other projects, ninth grade center, et cetera. We are looking, and Jossie's group is helping Dr. Triplett in the district to look at basically a long-term facilities plan that incorporates or is looking at all of the other projects around the district and the other buildings. So that is actually on the way. So I want to mention that. Getting through this financial report for the month, the district's financial position is solid, remains solid. We have an overall fund reserve or savings of 36.69%. And I want to, first of all, good evening, Board of Education, Normandy Board of Education, Dr. Triplett, and Normandy Schools community. But we are again at a healthy spot currently through the end of August, again with our overall savings at about 36.69, almost just under 37% in all of our funds, our 4 funds. Year-to-date revenues are running at $9.2 million. Largely, we have $3.7 million in collections under Title I. On the expenditure side, we have generated $10.5 million in expenses. That's largely in the form of salaries. That's $2.6 million. Our total fund reserve or balance is in what we call our operating funds, which are the general and the teachers fund, total 18.6 million, just under that, and that's a fund reserve of 36.19%. Again, as we've mentioned many times, the state mandates that districts carry at least a 3% minimum operating fund reserve. We're well over that, more than 10 times larger than that amount. So the district's in a solid position at this point. So I've mentioned the financial position of the district. We had an ending fund reserve of about 26 million at the beginning of the school year. We've had $9.3 million in revenues collected year to date through August 31st. Expenditures at $10.5 million. So our ending fund reserves of $24.8 million total, that 36.19% operating fund reserve and the 36.69% overall fund reserve. Now I'm going to just take a couple of minutes basically to talk about some of the great things that the business office and our operations are doing currently. As you all know, we recently set the district's tax levies for the operating and the debt service levies. That was solid. That's going to be generating roughly about $20 million of additional revenue that will fund our budget for the upcoming year. Our assessed valuations went up slightly by 2.39% this year, up to $422 million for total assessed valuation in the district, up from $412 million the year before. The business office continues to work with our auditors, so we want to bring you all the report at the December meeting. We hope to finish up the field work on the audit this month or in early November. That's going pretty smoothly so far with our new auditors. We are also working with the Missouri United School Insurance Council to get our values and our new renewal set on our buildings, our board, insurance policy, workers' comp, etc. And so that's coming along pretty well. And then we continue to work with HR. We've got our benefits specialist or coordinator, Andrea Turner, is here. She's standing in for Ms. Gilliard this evening, and we are working to get the Cigna issues addressed. That transition or enrollment went fairly smoothly, but we have some issues that we are working out for employees around the district. And then finally, we have issued a request for qualifications for legal services. Working with Dr. Triplett, who we had actually 2 responses that came back in, but we're reissuing or working with communications to reissue that request for qualifications because we want a larger pool to evaluate in selecting an attorney group. And so with that, hopefully I got through in my 7.5 minutes, and I will field any questions at this time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Brooks. I'm going to remind our board members to ask questions. Time for comments is at the end of the meeting. Mr. Humphrey.
You mentioned during your presentation that there were some issues with Cigna. Talk a little bit about what those issues are.
Okay, well, I think we had a strong, really with the transition, the plan was to not only move over the healthcare package, but also the dental and vision. Well, because of the short time that we had to make this transition, we are still with United Healthcare for the dental and vision for this year. So that's an issue. There also are a few other issues where employees are saying, that maybe their rates are a little bit higher than they expected. We're working with that. And I know some of you in the audience have even said things to me this evening as well. But I know Andrea Turner is asking that any concerns be emailed to her directly, and she's going to be turning those over to our broker, et cetera, and to Cigna. So those are, Mr. Humphrey, some of the issues that we're seeing with regard to the Cigna transition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Secretary Taylor.
No questions.
Director Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks, for being here this evening. I have a couple questions. First, I wanted to know how would the recent tax freeze for our seniors affect our tax levy?
Yes, so that there is in St. Louis County, as in St. Charles County, there's now provision that is locking down, or for the elderly, or for senior citizens 62 or older, basically their tax rates are going to be frozen at a certain level. So there's not an increase technically. So there's going to be a slight just a slight amount of impact to the district on that with regard to our senior taxpayers.
Okay, and my other question is, I know that when our brokers were here, I asked if they can come in and do some educational classes with our staff to make sure they understand the products and services they receive from Cigna. Have they been able to engage in that type of work at all as of yet?
As of yet, that has not taken place. So, but there are plans to do so moving forward, and not just with our broker, but with other services that serve our benefits function for the district.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Pearson.
Good evening, Mr. Brooks. Thank you for your presentation. So I guess I'm just gonna say it out front. From my understanding, Cigna was supposed to match the previous healthcare neck to neck. Where did the disconnect come from?
Okay. Well, Cigna was supposed to match pretty much neck to neck, and it really is that. In fact, in some ways, it's even better when you're looking at our standard product or the premium buy-up. It's around the HSA, the health savings account. There's some things around there, but for the most part, it's the costs are lower when you look at the premium plan and the standard plan, the base plan. If you'd like, we can even have a little bit more clarity on this at the next board meeting, because I know for expediency's sake, this is very important, and I'd appreciate the questions, but we can have a little bit more deeper dive on this and bring the benefits person in, et cetera, to look at this.
And if it could be a PowerPoint, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. Director Milton Roberts.
Thanks. Almost dropping the microphone. Thank you for your presentation. The only question I really had is you said that there would probably be an opportunity for some classes and things like that for staff. Is there any focus on wellness for staff?
Yes, there is. We have a tremendous offering, we believe, with health, and our wellness initiative. So we have that. I almost would want Andrea Turner to talk about that, but we'll roll that out in our presentation next month with the next open session board meeting.
Thank you. Director Petty.
Just one question. Who is the district's current broker?
The current broker, Dr. Petty, is Richard K. Gaines and Associates, or Richard K. Gaines.
Thank you. I have no questions. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Brooks. Moving on to agenda item 6.04, the Normandy Schools Collaborative 2025 Strategic Plan Update. Dr. Triplett is going to provide it at this time. I'm going to ask Dr. Triplett to be brief. Yes, and by brief we mean less than 5 minutes.
So we'll really abbreviate some things. Okay. So we know that the strategic plan is one of the Joint Executive Governing Board's governing documents, and so the plan was orchestrated back in 2020, spring of 2020, and it began its implementation phases in July of 2020. But we all know what year that was. That was the year of the ailment, right? And so there's very little things that happened during that period towards the strategic plan. But there are five strategic priorities in this plan. Did they not put it up here right? So the first of we'll address 1.2, adopt and implement evidence-based trauma-informed and restorative practices. What the district has done, I'm not sure what was done that predates me, and in between the time period I arrived and the time period where COVID happened. But we noticed that there was nothing in the district around socio-emotional curriculum, and so we conducted a curriculum review. And we'll be making a recommendation in the very near future to the board with regards to a district-wide SEL or socio-emotional learning curriculum. We also created and launched attendance teams at every school. Each school has attendance plans and they have incentive plans, and we are looking into how do we incentivize those attendance plans for each school level. We developed monitoring systems in those attendance plans. Every school has attendance meetings, and they work closely with Dr. Brooks with regards to how we monitor and what we're doing in those attendance teams. And if they're effective, what do we need to do to change those attendance teams? This is our attendance, our 90/90 attendance, our proportional attendance rate dating back to 2020. If you can see, there's a sharp drop from 2021 to 2022, and it started to climb just a little bit in 2023. Our plans are reflective of these numbers and what we're doing in the interim to address that. Now we know that we have some very steep hills to climb around attendance. And so the one thing we're doing is we're making sure that um, we're putting targets on everything we do. So the target this year for our district is a very, very aggressive target at 85%. We're currently sitting at 43% from last year. So that lets you know what kind of work we have to do and what we have to do to find students. If we can't find students, we're also making sure we're coding students in the system such that so that it won't affect us. 2, college and career ready. What are we doing around college and career readiness? So 2.21 and 3 talks about curriculum. So prior to 2020, I'm not sure what had been done with regards to curriculum, but I do know that last year when I onboarded, the team and I really did some research and some investigating around our current curriculum. And the district had not had a curriculum adoption in more than 10 years on any subject. And so what we did was we adopted new curricula for ELA, math, social studies, and grades pre-K through 12. Additionally, when we took a look at the high school, we determined that the high school in 2020 had no CTE courses, had no dual enrollment, had no dual credit opportunities, and did not have any AP courses. Since last year, the district adopted reinstated dual credit, dual enrollment. We reinstated AP courses, 6 AP courses. We got AP Literature, Language, Stats, Pre-Cal, African American Studies, and Government. We also have students, we increased our CTE numbers at North Tech. We increased our dual enrollment at St. Louis Community College and Harris-Stowe State University.
Superintendent, this is such good information. We're going to give you an extra 2 minutes. This is great.
So when we take a look at how the district performed in 2021-22 and 22-23, this is where we fared. And if you look at English language arts, our numbers went backwards in 2023. One of my goals last year was really to hit hard our early learning literacy. We had 70 before last year. We had 78% of our students entering third grade who were 3 or more grade levels below in reading. And so we're doing a really big push, which is why one of the big conversations I had with Mr. Julius Anthony was help me promote reading throughout the district. And we developed a really structured, intense K through 2 early childhood reading initiative to make sure we address those deficits. We also increased our enrichment at the middle and high school. So we have Reading 180 that will help with those deficits at both school levels. In math, if you could look at math, it kind of stayed the same, trend stayed the same. And so we're doing some things around how do we address math better. Right now, that's probably our hardest field area with regards to coaches. One of the biggest issues around our coaches was that prior to last school year, our coaches were disseminated and they were put in the classroom. So I vowed to CNI not to use coaches to go in the classroom so that they can provide coaches to classrooms. We know that one of the biggest issues around teaching and learning is a lack of pedagogy in the classroom. You cannot move students with substitute teachers because they don't have the pedagogy the same level of pedagogy, those teachers who've been through schools, years of training for those positions. And so we want to make sure that we're putting certified teachers in front of students, which is why we went and developed a relationship and brought in international teachers, because we were struggling trying to find teachers locally to fill those positions because of so many barriers. So what is MPI? MPI is the index that the state uses to say, okay, you're either on the floor, you're approaching, you're on target, or you arrived. And so if you look at our ELA and look at our math, ELA we're approaching. In math, we're targeting anything below 299 is on the floor. I mean, yeah, on the floor, and anything above 300 through I think 389 is approaching. So we made some strides last year. I think we're at 5% increase in ELA last year, which is a good number. I think we had some increase in math, not much, but some increase in math. Strategic priority 3: top talent, recruiting and retaining top talent. So what were we doing? Again, one of the things we did last year, I'm not sure what the certified staff numbers were that predated me, but I do know last year we hovered around 60 non-field certified classrooms. And so to that end, what we did was to make sure that we created partnerships, not only with Job Connect, but we also created those programs, the partnerships with universities that allow us to use student teachers in classrooms, that allow us to prepare our teachers who wanted to go in those programs. We partnership with UMSL, Lindenwood, SLU, Harris Stowe, and the like. And so the state also allowed me to sign off on about 8 teachers who had failed, had trouble passing their certification programs. And so me signing off on those allowed them to get their initial certifications. So we do have a recruitment plan. We just want to look over our retention plan to make sure it's capturing who's responsible for assisting with retaining teachers. Because I believe it's my belief that onboarding is one piece of the puzzle that says we got a terrific onboarding process that allows teachers to want to stay. But the rest of it happens in other places. And we have to make sure we put the right people in the right place to make sure we're supporting teachers the way they need to be supported, not the way we think they need to be supported. 3.2, developing a framework. Before last year, the district, we did some file audits, and we found that the district had not evaluated staff in over 10 years, I believe. And so that's troubling to hear. And so what we did was last year, we put in an evaluation system to evaluate every staff. So last year we had 100% evaluation of every staff member in the district. And so we also we're pushing principals to make sure we're getting in classrooms, performing walkthroughs, culture and climate walkthroughs, as well as instructional walkthroughs. And so right now, we're making sure everybody is monitoring everything, and we're inspecting what we're expecting of every department. Impactful partnerships. One of the biggest things we didn't have prior to me arriving is that we didn't have a parent engagement specialist. Now we don't have it. We don't have that person, that position filled again. That person has recently left to go to another district for whatever the reason was. But we know that in having conversations with Dr. Brooks, we know that we have to really, really develop that partnership, that really thick, rich partnership between that parent engagement specialist, those FAILs, and those principals to make sure we're reaching out to parents. So we're still in the process of developing what that parent engagement plan is. We're still in the infant stages of that. And so just working with the FAILs and continue working with the FAILs. Right now, I think we have somebody we are identifying to be the new parent engagement specialist. We just have to make sure that the other things meet, make sure we can collaborate, and make sure whatever that looks like We enjoy them, they enjoy us, and they enjoy our children. So we have to make sure those important pieces are met. We have, let me go back. So with regards to culture and climate, we did a culture and climate survey last year. The problem was we had very little response, and so and I believe it was because the way it was time bound. And so this year I think we implemented, we sent it out last Monday, and we're leaving it out for about 3 weeks to make sure we capture more parents. And we're also doing some social media things, and we're making sure we're having conversations at the school level so that parents can know that that survey is out there. And this is a commercial break, so if you're on YouTube and you're watching, please go out to the website, click on the survey, and take the survey so we'll know how to support the culture and climate of the district better. And lastly, 21st century learning. So again, although the state has identified four of our schools, actually, the high school and 3 of our elementary schools, we treat all of our schools as if they are in turnaround mode, because we don't have the scores don't reflect that we shouldn't be. And so what I did was I made sure I had the rich conversation with the state. We did that last week to make sure we have what we need, the documents we need to make sure we come up with plans that are feasible and robust. We will be presenting next month all 4 of those plans to the board for approval before they go to the state for approval. Additionally, each month, and we'll find out a way, how can we, no, never mind. Each month, the district will present to the board, and not necessarily in this forum, but just give the board an update on what attendance looks like, what out-of-school suspension look like through my data dashboard. So you'll get that update each month as well. These are just things that we've been doing. One of the biggest things we did differently to make sure schools are getting better support and supporting themselves better is that all of the governing for funds can't come from Mr. Brooks. And so what we did was we made sure that each building had discretionary spending, meaning they have budgets. Every building has a Title I budget and a GOB budget to make sure that they can be fiscally responsible. One of their matrices in their evaluations is their ability to be fiscally responsible. And so we're putting the onus on them to make sure they're resourcing their buildings the way they should be resourcing their buildings, based on their clientele and based on the needs of their buildings. And so that's one big thing that we did. We started that last year, and we're continuing on with the same process this year. Are there any questions?
Great. Thank you so much, Superintendent. This is very valuable information and information that we have requested to see. So thank you for including that. I'm going to ask our board members to please be brief in your questions, and Superintendent, please be brief in your response. Vice President Humphrey.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. There's a number of things I'll try to get through quickly.
But be brief.
I'm going to be brief. The first thing you talked about was literacy. And is there any plan to do a more robust communication plan around literacy for the entire district, to know, so that everybody, parents, everybody knows that literacy is our focus? That's one. The other thing, I know that we're putting in place Reading 180. At some point, can we get some progress data on Reading 180 to find out if it's working, not working? Because I know we put something in place at the middle school and high school. The other thing, I know that you gave a 3-week window on the culture survey. I would love to see what the parents are saying about the district, once that survey comes in. The other thing that was not in your presentation, but it jumped out, at some future date, can we get data about parent portal use by grade? Because we have resources for parents and we're trying to engage parents, and we need to see if they're actually using the resources that we've made available to them.
All right. So I'm hearing some suggestions and not questions.
Okay.
Because I don't know what we're asking the superintendent.
Okay. Well, the other question, this is a question. As we look at the wraparound and supportive services for children that are 1, 2, and 3 years behind in their learning, is there any plan to do tutors to support those children?
Well, We'll be making a recommendation to the board very soon about our SEL curriculum. And yes,
Okay. That's all I got.
It was a big list, and I'm trying to make sure that he's responsive to your question. So
I can send them to him in writing and send them to you.
well, yes to all your whatever they were. They were all yes.
Okay.
okay, great.
I will make sure that I send it to the president so he
I'm
can.
giving you. I'll put yes on those when you send them to.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you so much, Secretary Taylor.
Thank you for the presentation. Just wanted to say you have quite a task ahead of you. And we are looking to make sure that you do those things that you have said that you would do for this district.
Director Edwards, any questions at this time?
Yes, I do have a question. You mentioned about the walkthroughs, inspecting what we are expecting. Can you tell us a little bit about what your expectations are with these walkthroughs? Are you looking for the reading instruction of the teachers? Can you just give us a little idea of what that walkthrough is?
Just whatever instruction calls for. The principals know what they're the instructional leaders of their team of their buildings, and so they're to look at it. What instruction looks like? Who's doing the heavy lifting? Is it the student or the teachers? Is there an alignment? What they're teaching is it aligned to the BBCs, aligned to the lesson plans, aligned to actually what's being taught. They're looking at culture and climate, um, the respect between student teacher, those kinds of things.
Great. Director Pearson.
Good evening, Dr. Tripley. Thank you for your presentation. I do not have any questions.
Director Milton Roberts.
Well, thank you for your presentation. I do have a couple of questions. First, as it relates to you were talking about attendance and so forth. I guess I'll put the same question out again. Um, Is there do you have any plans to look at before and after care at the lower grades, especially early learning center and the elementary schools, obviously, because there seems to be a correlation between attendance and the ability of parents to drop off so that they can get to work on time. So is there some task force or something that's looking at that?
No, there's nothing currently, but we can look into it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that would be very important to do. I guess the other program you asked about the tutoring, so I would have that question. The other thing that I guess I would ask is that again, since we are finding that we have students that are multiple grade levels behind, are we able to, are you looking at or have you considered doing things like having teachers assistants or other instructors who are pushing into the classroom so that we can get them into small group and work with them more on a 1 to 3, 1 to 5 versus a full classroom? And also, what's our ratio of students to teachers in our elementary grades to ensure?
So I don't have a ratio number for you. I can get that for you. Additionally, we just hired around 52 international teachers. So that means we have more pedagogy in the classroom. So let me see how that works to see if we need to add tutoring or pushing in and those kinds of things. I want to make sure that we're giving our international teachers and our new teachers who come on board all of the training they need to be successful around our new curricula.
Will the teachers that have been covering those classrooms, will they remain in the classrooms with those international teachers?
They will be there until January.
Till January?
Hmm. And then after that, I think each building will have
We'll make a decision.
2 or 3 long-term subs in their buildings to assist with whatever they need to assist with the exception of the high school and the middle school. They'll have a couple of more.
Thank you, Director Milton Roberts. Director Petty.
Point of clarity, is it true that the district had not adopted any curricular tools in 10 years?
In some curriculum and some curriculum more.
Are there any other questions, Dr. Petty?
No, thank you.
Thank you so much. No questions. Thank you, Superintendent, for your presentation. Moving on to item 6.05, our safety update from Norman Campbell.
Well, as my pastor would say, I won't be before you long.
All right.
And they always
How
say
many minutes do I have?
I need you that longer. I need everybody to be safe.
Oh man. So just to security update. So the district has been involved in district-wide training for the last 3 months, which is called vector training, which is better known as safe schools training. We currently have 10 courses that are online, and particularly two that are most important are Title IX and sexual harassment. Those two are particularly important because our insurance company will fine us greatly if we're not at least 80% completed through district-wide, and we have to have that done by December. And I'm glad to report that we are almost done with all of it. So that's the training on that end. Ms. Sutton touched on cell phones. And I have just a few comments on cell phone use and what security has experienced with cell phones in the buildings in the district. Cell phones have created distractions during emergencies. Kids are running towards fights and emergency events to try to film them, try to put them on TikTok or any kind of social media that might be available to them. So that's putting them in danger. I don't think parents understand that. Unfortunately, we've had a few sexual misconducts where, unfortunately, our children are taking new photos of themselves and sending it to their boyfriends or girlfriends, and then it being airdropped all over the district, and which is causing a major distraction because now nobody's paying attention to the teacher. They're all looking at their phones and embarrassing whatever student is involved in that. Of course, the threats online have increased with cell phones in the building. Kids are calling students and telling them to meet them after school or just threatening them, period. So, which also leads to cyberbullying. We've had a lot of that. Kids are picking fights at home and sending them to kids and threatening them and their well-being. Of course, the rumor mills. That's where the cell phones and social media takes place. Um, these kids are starting all sorts of false rumors about other students and the district and teachers and staff. Um, During emergencies, we've had reports that students are calling parents during emergencies and having them come to the school, which is causing another whole disruption because now parents are coming up wanting to see their kids when we're trying to figure things out. And teachers and staff can't do their jobs because parents are showing up at the door irate, causing more of an issue. The other thing is that I don't think that people understand that if we ever had an active shooter situation or anything like that, and children are instructed to shelter in place with their cell phones, they're trying to call their loved ones are trying to call them, and that's only going to give an assailant more of an opportunity to find out where they are. So we're asking that at some point we ban these cell phones from our schools. So, the last thing that I'll report on is we had an event in August where we had an assault take place. That's still under investigation. So I have no new news on the assault that happened in August.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Questions? I'll start to my left. Mr. Humphrey.
I have no questions.
Secretary Taylor.
I have no questions. Thank you for the presentations, and I understand what you all are going through because it is difficult, for you to do your job, and then we know what the children are doing with the phones. Some parents think that it's okay for the children to have the phones in case of an emergency. But what they don't understand is the things that you just explained to us. There's, the effects of them actually having those phones. So
Absolutely.
I understand what you all are experiencing.
Thank you. Questions, Director Pearson.
Missed the birthday.
Oh, did I go over? I'm sorry, Director Ed. Director Ed.
Thank you for being here this evening. I do have maybe one or two questions. How have you engaged parents in notifying them the risk that we take, our district take, with having the children, our students bring their cell phones into the schools?
Say that again. I'm so sorry.
So how have you engaged with parents to help them understand or educate them on the risks that happens when the students bring their cell phones into our schools?
I believe that we've sent out a lot of literature about the dangers of having cell phones and the distractions that they may cause. And also, we have one on one conversations when those situations arise where the kid has been involved in something because of a cell phone. So we have those conversations with those parents individually at that time also.
Okay. And then my other question would be, um, due to the school threats and other unforeseen incidents, how are we navigating our students and helping them understand the uh, security issues and the importance of safety within our schools?
Yes, ma'am. So we have tried to deal with those things as mildly but importantly as we possibly can because we're one of the things, and I hate to say this out loud, but a lot of the situations where children uh, posing threats just to cancel school, and Dr. Triplett had the wherewithal not to do that, just put safety precautions in place so that we could keep our kids safe in school where they need to be. But we all the security directors in St. Louis County got together about a week ago, and met with St. Louis County Police Department, MIAC, which is the Missouri Information Analyst Center, which is Crisis Go, which we have a reporting system in our schools, and also the U.S. Attorney's Office to come up with a rock solid plan on how we should deal with these things going forward. And that's still in the process. We're still working with each other to find out how the threats came about, what we did about them, and how we can prevent those things from happening in the future. But we're also always trying to educate our children too, and what the importance is and the consequences of doing such, because that is a criminal act.
Yes, and my last question is, how, as a board, can we support you? Because I understand that you stress the issue about banning cell phone use. So, how, as a board, can we support you with that effort and any other measure that you believe would be deemed necessary to encourage the
Yes.
non-usage of the cell phones with the
It's all about education. It's all about informing the parents of the dangers that are inherent with having kids with cell phones and all the things that I named previously about what the distractions are, the consequences behind those things, because people have been hurt, again, showing up to fights when they're not even involved in them. Just to put it on social media because that's the new thing now, or not the new thing, but that's an ongoing thing. So we encourage those kids to stay back, not even have their phones out. So just education, Ms. Edwards,
Great.
that's the most important thing, educating the parents of the
Thank you.
dangers.
Director Pearson.
Good evening. Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, with this whole thought of the emergencies and phone ban, what are the protocols that you're going to take to get communications out to the parents?
Well,
I'm one of the parents in the school district, so um, communication has been better this year.
mm,
But with an emergency, will it be that accurate? Will it be so that the children won't get the information out to social media and whomever else, but it'll come from the school district so that the parents can feel a little bit more secure. You're gonna be on high alarm and with anxiety, but what would be something that would support the parents in helping your decision with this ban?
just making sure that they understand that if an emergency occurs, that the district, the school administrators are going to do the absolute best at informing the parents where to be, where to go, and what has happened. We have worked with communications more diligently to make sure that parents are informed. And the only thing we can do is make sure we get that information out that we're going to do the absolute best of making sure that parents are informed if something happens.
Thank
Thank you. Director Milton Roberts.
Yes, I guess my first question is, not too long ago, there was a significant investment made by the district in yonder pouches. And so I'm trying to understand, um, did we implement them the way they were supposed to? What's the scoop with that?
Yes, ma'am. We did implement them the way that we were supposed to. We got literature out to the parents, informing them that we were going to initiate the Yonder program. Unfortunately, the kids were very creative and found ways to cut them open, have dummy phones, if you will, and keeping their real phones on them, um, hiding them in places that we weren't going to check for. So it really, really there was a lot of education on our part that we needed to learn that things were going to happen, and now we always have been working with other districts to find out what some of the caveats are.
Okay. And then I guess my next question, kind of along those same lines. So change is always difficult. So my question is, what is the thought process, or what have you already done to engage the students as well as the parents besides sending home a memo? Okay. To teach them about the dangers, to teach them, or to even engage them in conversation about how cell phones impact their learning. What are we doing besides sending out a memo?
So let me interrupt. So just really quick, Director. Um, in addition to just sending information out, the objective is to really share information with the district and the JEGB first before we start trying to go out and seek survey parents and students. So we want to make sure we have a really strong front to be able to have support and supporting each other and supporting kids before we reach out. And so if you could please allow us to do that so that we can come back with a more stronger emphasis on your ask so that we can make sure we're on the same page.
That's fine with me. I really just want to make sure that we're doing, full circle. So that's fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Thank you, Director Milton Roberts. Director Petty.
Recently, you mentioned a significant district investment in security cameras. How are those cameras being used to support responses to emergencies and identifying students who are not following the directives that they should be following when those emergencies occur?
Well, we have people that are constantly monitoring those cameras as long as school is in, from the time they come in, from the time to the time they leave. And then they are reporting because now, Dr. Petty, we have district-wide radios. So now they're able to inform administrators and the other security team members that, hey, there's something that's happening in East Hall or whatever. Uh, get there quickly before something actually happens. So someone's there monitoring those cameras as long as school is in, including myself and Captain Tripp, who's over at district office.
You mentioned the deadline date for completion of the Vector Safe Schools training is December 9th?
It's just December 1st.
Just December 1st.
Yes, sir.
So as we approach somewhere near the midpoint of the school year, how valuable is the training if we've gone that far in the school year and people haven't done it? Is that deadline typical for districts in our region?
The deadline is always December, from what I understand. And the first two trainings that I mentioned were important enough to make them due earlier than December 1st. So the rest of the training is actually uh, the cutoff date was October 1st for the rest of the training, but the initial training, those Title IXs and sexual misconduct, were due earlier than December 1st because we want to make sure that those trainings are.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I have no questions. Thank you. We appreciate the report and the update. Thank
Absolutely.
you. We would like to move to item 6.06, annual performance report update. I understand that this is going to be quickly, and then we'll move to item 6.07. So, Dr. Brooks, please be prepared.
All right, so the information you see above, we have very limited information with regards to data because the real data is still encumbered. And so what they do is they give you some really generic data for you to try and make some sense of it. So if we look at the data, we try to do a comparative analysis between the preliminary data we got last year versus the preliminary data we got this year. And last year in ELA, if you look at advanced, proficient, basic, and below, that's the comparative analysis between the two. In advanced, we dropped a little bit, and proficient we dropped a little bit. Basic we dropped quite a bit, and we increased below basic for this year. Now these numbers may or may not change. It depends on our scrubbing and whatever the state deems as an invalid score or a good score. So those are the kinds of those. That's why this data is important to make sure you read it out the correct way, because people take it, leave, and they read into the data that what should not be read into it. Now, if you look at math and science, we don't have social studies because last year was not a year for social studies. So this year they're putting social studies in the mix. And so this is how the district performed in math. Overall, with our advanced scores, we decreased. We went from 2.83 to 1.91. In our proficient scores, we increased from 6.56 to 7.31. In basic, we increased from 22.66 to 26.30, and below basic we decreased from 69.8 to 64.25, which is what you want to do because you're moving up the scale. In science, we didn't have anybody score in advance. This year we had 1.06%. We didn't have anybody score in proficient. This year we had 4.89. We had a decrease in students who scored in basic from 27.5 to 27.33, and we had a slight increase in students who performed below basic from 65.4445 to 66.71. Now, again, the APR and the MPI scores have not been calculated because the state assessment is still being reviewed at this time as districts go through their appeal process. And the appeal process is those processes that said this score is not valid because of this, and it could be a number of things. And so that's why that's not. So the next set of data will come out either late November or beginning of December. That'll have the district scorecard, so you get a better indication of how the district scored this year versus last year in comparison to other districts around. Any questions?
Superintendent, I thank you for sharing this information. We do understand that this is preliminary data, and I asked you to share this data with us. But I'm going to ask that we hold on questions for our next meeting related to this data, where we'll have a more robust presentation and have more time to delve into that data, if that's okay with the board. Thank you so much. Thank you for that presentation. Dr. Brooks.
Good evening again. Good evening again, everyone. I'll be talking about SEL, which is social emotional learning. Currently, our SEL supports are activity-based, while we focus on district-wide SEL curricula for approval later on. What is social emotional learning? People with strong social emotional skills are better equipped to manage daily challenges, build positive relationships, and make informed decisions. SEL helps students and adults thrive in school and in life. And the skills can be taught and learned from preschool all the way through adulthood. Our students benefit from SEL by having less emotional distress, fewer disciplinary incidents, increases in school attendance, and improved test scores and grades. All of these benefits contribute to students having success in and out of school, as well as graduating on time. Community partners. Our community's partners play a key role in this effort, partnering with schools and families to extend the experience of SEL through opportunities for trusting relationships with adults and enriching in-school and out-of-school time and their experiences. Measuring the efficacy of SEL. Before implementing an SEL program, it's important to determine the levels of SEL competency and design appropriate approaches. This process includes deciding what to measure, settling timelines, choosing the approach and tools, working with school personnel and community partners. Um,
That wasn't me, but I
you
am
want me
going
to
to give
stop,
you the.
Ms. Riggs?
I'm going to
Is
give
that
you the. I'm going to give you the 2-minute
right?
warning.
Right. Measuring the work involving SEL is crucial to our success in this district. Those are all the points that I have for SEL.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the board?
I have one question.
Yes.
Will these services be provided throughout for all the students, or is it specific per grade level?
No, through all K-12,
Correct.
pre-K through 12.
Thank you. Additional questions?
So, you did mention that SEL are really based on activities
Right now.
in spite of the curriculum that we are seeking to see later on down the line. So the activities, are they coming directly from our partners that
Yes, ma'am. That have experience with SEL already, but we want to have a uniformity across the district regarding an SEL curricula, which is something that we're working towards.
Okay, thank you.
No
Great.
problem.
Thank you so much. That's all we have time for tonight in that area. Thank you, Dr. Brooks.
Thank you.
We're going to move to items for discussion and action. Item 7.01, partnership agreement. I do believe that's Dr. Claire behind that mask.
Did you send an email? Let's see. It's in no. Yeah, they like you. Yes. Meeting networks. Didn't send. Okay. She's going to be now. I'm not sure. Speaking of you.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Triplett, Board President Hodge, Vice President Humphreys, and Board of Directors. My name is Dr. DeAndre Player, and I'm the Director of Special Education for the district. What I'm sharing today will be information regarding the partnership agreement. I think they're going to still try to bring those slides up, but it should be in your packet. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act requires states and school districts to have policies, procedures, and programs that are aligned with federal policies, procedures concerning the provision of special education. The partnership agreement is an adopted tool that supports us with this alignment. It supports increased knowledge and awareness of expectations. It guides our conversations and supports an inclusive and collaborative approach concerning the provision of special education. And it helps us to monitor decision making and practices in 7 categories. What would have been shared are 7 categories before you. They are as follows. We look at staffing, we look at teaching, learning, and accountability, collaboration of responsibilities and resources, student services, data and technology, transportation, and career technical education. Additionally, as a part of the slides, there is a hyperlink to the full document of the partnership agreement. You will notice in that document that there are additional details provided to you regarding the partnership agreement and what takes place during those conversations.
On a biannual basis, myself, Dr. Brooks, and Dr. McConnell meet to discuss those 7 categories to determine what action steps to look at for the year, and we also discuss progress on each of them. Where appropriate, we will include additional stakeholders. The Educational Partnership Agreement requires the signature of the following individuals. It would be the board president, special school districts president, our governing council member, which would be Ms. Teresa Pearson, and our district liaison, which would be Dr. Tonio Brooks. By signing this agreement, you agree to endorse the vision, mission, and belief statement outlined in the partnership agreement. You support the collaboration and share responsibilities in partnering in the partner agreement. You support the collaboration and share responsibilities for providing equitable and seamless implementation of services. You understand the partnership agreement with that it will guide the collaborative efforts to enable every child to achieve at his or her full potential. Special School District asks that this agreement be signed by October 31st and submitted to the Office of SSD Superintendent. What questions do you all have?
Thank you for your presentation and for your commitment to the partnership with the special school district in our district. This is an annual commitment that we make to this partnership.
Correct.
So I will ask, are there questions?
What i- i- what is the strategy to get more young people at the high school level involved in the CTE training programs so that our students are either graduating going to college or graduating going into a career?
That's a great question. And so, as I share with you those 7 categories, we identified those that we're going to target for the year. Career technical education is one of the targeted goals for this year. And so, what we've done, NARTEC provides training for our counselors, and I believe that training is on next week. And so, we provided our high school counselors and middle school counselors with that information to participate in that training so that they can bring that information back to the district. Additionally, there's been information included in Normandy's Insider and Outer Communication regarding the upcoming Parent Preview Night. Um, Additionally to that, I included in my newsletter to our families who receive special education services in the district. And so we try to make sure that our families are equipped with information regarding that process. And so enrollment application window has opened. It opened in September and it closes in December. And so we want our families to have the opportunity to visit the school, to read information on the website. We've included those hyperlinks as well so that they're informed about those decisions for their students.
Dr. Player, thank you so much. I do believe it is the pleasure of Dr. Player to hear a motion to approve the annual partnership with SSD as outlined in the materials provided. I will entertain a motion at this time.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there discussion?
I just want to say thank you, Dr. Player, for your work. I am on the SSD governing board. We had our first annual meeting a few weeks ago. Been in so many meetings. And I did not know the work that is being placed in our school district with Dr. Player and her staff. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
At the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned staffing.
Mhm.
Do you currently have enough staff to provide adequate service to the students in Normandy?
And so again, that's another action step that we've been working on. Our focus this year is career technical education as well as staffing. And so we do currently have some vacancies in the district. However, we do have paraprofessionals who are certified. They have sub-certificates and they're currently serving in those roles. All of them have degrees in other areas. They're currently in school working on their special education certifications. And then we're also partnering with Normandy's HR department, SSD's HR department, as well as Normandy's HR department to see if we can also get support with international teachers as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Having no more questions, I'm going to ask Ms. Rigsby for a roll call vote.
Okay, the roll call vote on the floor is the partnership agreement with SSD and Normandy School Collaborative. Director Petty,
Abstain.
Director Milton Roberts.
Yay or nay? Yay. Yes.
I'm sorry, can you?
Yes.
Yes. Director Pearson,
Absolutely, yes.
Director Edwards,
Yes.
Secretary Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Humphrey,
Yes.
President Hodge.
Yes.
The yes has it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your service. It has been approved. Moving on to item 7.02, KI Prop V, remaining ESSER 3 funds oversight and utilization. Um,
Jesus.
Thank you, Kareem. Good evening again, Board of Education and Dr. Triplett and Normandy Schools community. At this time, we're going to bring our partner and construction manager, Jossie Haynes. He's the VP with KAI. The district had, as you all know, $6.5 million in remaining ESSER funds. We have major projects that have, to some extent, been identified and presented to you, the board. And the district has a recommendation to utilize our partner and construction manager, KI, on these projects. And so at this time, Mr. Haynes is going to come forward and elaborate.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Try to zoom in on this. All right. Guess when I zoom in.
Some more.
All right. So as you know, we were coming into September 30th, where we had to encumber the dollars, or we would have lost them. So we went into a series of conversations with Dr. Triplett, staff, board members who were involved in the conversations as well, about allocations of the funds. One of the things that were identified were three key areas. One was what would bring us the most ROI. What were areas that we could look at to enhance the school from a collaborative standpoint, and also what were the things that were absolutely necessary in the effort to move forward. So one of the things that we talked about and we've allocated for funds, which would be the high school track and field. We've talked about that before. Before there was a plan to put this field in place, we've been asked to work on a budget. So we have a budget of $3 million for the football field track. That's going to be the track that we had shown before.
I've got to ask, we've got to expand this so the entire audience can see this. We've seen this as a board,
Okay.
but there's a little expansion button right there in the top right-hand. There we go.
Not that big.
And if you could, even if you could just, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. So again, Normandy School Collaborative High School Track and Field replacement, $3 million. Normandy School Collaborative Bell Ridge, the bus lot. We've been talking about that. We've allocated $1.1 million for the bus improvements. We've also, for number 3, we've allocated for the Viking Hall upgrades, $800,000. And then for facilities maintenance and master plan, which is kind of talking about what we were discussing, to put together a master plan for the facilities, understanding that these funds will not be enough to attack everything that needs to be done. We wanted to make sure that we had a plan in place with these funds that would allow us to put us in a place where we can talk about and present also a plan for our facilities that need work um, as far as the master plan is concerned. So that was a total of $6.5 million, which was submitted to DESI, and I will entertain any conversations about this.
You are asking the board to approve this use of ESSER dollars?
Correct.
Great. So I will entertain a motion um, at this time to approve the proposal as presented.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. A discussion.
Yes, I have a question. On the Bell Ridge bus lot, does that include doing any work to the building itself, or is it just mainly the lot?
It's mainly the lot.
Okay, so there's no painting or signing or anything.
Only in the lot. Only in the lot. This what we're hoping to accomplish on the lot would be not only the uh, electric vehicles for the electric stations for the buses, but also the lot in its entirety, lighting, striping, parking, and development further of the facility of that lot.
Great. Other questions?
Me.
I have a
Pearson.
point of clarity also. Under the facilities maintenance master planning services,
Yes, ma'am.
are you saying that it's 1.6 for you to develop the plan, or are you saying it's 1.6, including doing some work that you identify on the plan
To develop the plan.
to develop the plan? Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, a couple of things for clarity. Uh, the $3 million with the high school track and things like that, for the purpose of this conversation, can you share with the group what's actually wrong with the track, why it needs to be modified?
Currently, the track is not regulation, and it it's frankly it's not up to par. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be put in a place where currently you can't have night games. And there are also issues with the current facility there where we have the restroom facilities that need to be upgraded. We want to expand the home seating so that we can have more seats there. What else? The scoreboard. I mean, it's if you walked it, you would see that you could not have a Class A event at that facility when it's the jumps. You have the jumps, the long jump. All of the other track and field events are not there, so we want to make sure all that's included in this process.
Be in the same place, or is it moving?
It's in the same place. So the square footage is correct. It's just back when when it was done, in the days that it was done, it wasn't done to regulation at today's standard.
So I think it's in yards versus meters, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And I guess the other question I wanted to ask about was the bus lot. Earlier conversations when we were talking about the e-buses, I was under the impression that the grant for the e-buses was actually covering all of the infrastructure as it relates to the charging stations and the other things at the lot. So I'm trying to figure out, is that still the same? Because that $1.1 million, we could surely use it in some other places if that grant's going to cover the things that I thought we were going to cover.
So these allocated funds are associated with the school's upgraded to upgrade the school. So as long as we stay within the bucket of how do I say this of scope of work, we can. There's some adjustments that can be made as it is currently in the contract that you have with on that project. It only covers a very small area, and I think, from my understanding, it's not covering the vast majority of the lot. So in order to carry that cost, we want to make sure that we have some monies in place so that we are able to do the whole lot in its entirety, all of the asphalt, lighting, expanding the lot so that you can use it in a more efficient way. And currently, that's the process that we're undergoing right now. We have no clue at this moment what those expenditures are going to be. This is just a rough order of magnitude.
Right, and I know that because of the fact that the second bond issue never got passed, and there are other facility needs in other buildings. I hope as we go through this process, I know that these are preliminary numbers, and to kind of give you some guideposts, but I want to squeeze these numbers.
Agreed.
Because I need to find some money to there's some things we need to do in the district, and we need to squeeze these numbers to find as much.
The way we've compartmentalized or packaged this project, any money that's not used in any one of these buckets could be moved to another bucket.
It satisfies me. That's
Right.
great. Any other questions? Being none, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote to approve the proposal as presented by Jossie with KAI.
Yes, sir. The vote on the floor is for the remaining fund. I'm sorry.
Yes.
To use the remaining funds of the ESSER 3 funds. President Hodge,
Yes.
Vice President Humphrey,
Yes.
Secretary Taylor,
Abstain.
Director Edwards,
Abstain.
Director Pearson,
Yes.
Director Milton Roberts,
Abstain.
Director Dr. Petty,
No.
President Hodge. We have 1, 2, 3 abstain, 3 yes, and 1 no.
So can I weigh in here? So that we understand that if we don't encumber these funds the way we said that we told the state they will be encumbered, we will lose $6.5 million, just so you know.
I have a question.
It is past time for questions. We have just lost, based on the vote that you made, we've just lost over $6 million of improvements for our district.
If I can interject something, President Hodge, board colleagues, it's clear to me that there is some unreadiness around the proposal, and is as evident by the vote. What I would ask us to do is have an open, candid conversation about what caused the vote to happen the way that it did, because the only way we're going to get to the other side of what we have is that if we have a transparent, open conversation. So, President Hodge, if you would allow that discussion, I think it needs to happen.
Well, an open dialogue, I am supportive of an open dialogue, but with all due respect, this is not time for discussion. This is now time for decision making. We've made a decision. Now, if there is a motion to revote on the floor, there will be an appropriate time for discussion. There's an order that needs to be followed. If people have questions, they should ask questions during the appropriate discussion time. They've made their vote, they've made their decision, and their decision has caused the district to lose $6.5 million of improvements for our district.
That's not the only way of looking at that.
Well,
Well, as I said
Way
before,
of looking at it,
well,
those are
as I indicated before, if you would allow us just a few minutes.
I will only entertain a discussion related to a motion. Is there a motion at this time?
So
Is-
moved. To move.
What is there a motion?
Yes.
She said yes. I second it.
What is the
What's the
motion?
motion?
Motion is that we continue discussion on the allocation of the ESSER fund.
That is not a motion with an action related to it. I will not entertain that motion. It is not properly presented.
I motion that there is a revote for the allocation of funds of the ESSER funds for what's this? 7.02.
Yes.
Is that better? No.
7.02. Yeah. Line item 7.02.
It has been moved for a vote, a second vote to nullify the first vote.
We need a second.
We do need a second.
Milton Roberts.
You got a second.
There's a second. I will entertain a discussion at this time.
Okay, my first question to my board colleagues, you see the list as presented. Is there anything that you want to have considered to that list that's not currently there? Well, you can't change. I know that the dollars have been encumbered, but those are projections. Those are not actual dollars. If you notice, I made the comment as we go through this process, can we squeeze the budget to find necessary dollars to address other things? So I'm simply asking my board colleagues, are there other things, if we can find the money through the encumbered funds, are there things that we need to consider that would change the
Yes.
complexion of the vote?
Yes.
Who is speaking?
It- it-
Milton Roberts. Go
Yes.
ahead.
For me, what I would like to see is to make sure that we have some funds to deal with the ninth grade academy, so that the holes in the walls and the lockers that don't close, and et cetera, can be addressed so that they can have a top-notch learning environment like the high school.
I believe that
Ms. Pearson, go right ahead.
um from my understanding, I believe that North is a historic landmark. Am I wrong? I could be wrong. But last time I checked, it was a historic landmark. So there's certain um updates that cannot be done. And I don't think 6.5 million gonna do it. But
I'm talking circles.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not
Are
talking.
there other comments?
Yes, I would like to comment on that also.
Yes, Director
Yes, we
Titus.
understand it could very well be a historic building, but there are always some updates that can be made in the building. I believe one of those is, does that building currently have central air in it? Is window air conditions. And we have built, how much did it cost for us to build this beautiful building that when people pass by and they see how gorgeous it is? And then we have one of the buildings on the campus that does not have central air units. We have holes in the walls. We have old restrooms. And so I'm sure even if it is a historical building, you can go to the county, you can get paperwork to go in there and make any changes that need to be changed. So I am against spending $3 million on a track and field. And I understand we need an upgraded or updated track and field. But it sounds like to me from the pictures that we've seen, we want to mirror what other schools look like. And I'm all for that. But I think let's take care of our students. If we want our students to come to school and be comfortable while they're in school, because ninth graders are looking at what the other students are getting. They have a big, beautiful facility, and yet they're down there and they're complaining about things. And the reason that I say that, I'll say it again. I have a freshman who's in that building every day.
Okay. I just want to say
Director Pearson.
one last comment. Okay. Well, wouldn't it be more if there's more room in the newly built buildings or remodeled buildings to add the ninth graders there for the next school year as opposed to keeping them over in North? I'm not sure how that works out, but I'm looking at an alternative um for our students because yes, we want to make sure that they're safe. There's never been a chance that Normandy has hosted a track and field event.
Right.
There's never been a chance where Normandy has the highlight of Normandy that has hosted a great event was chess here in this building, and that was this year. So I'm for a new track, a new field. Honestly, Viking Hall should have been fixed before East.
So I
All
Thank
of
you.
that.
Other comments?
Yes, I do have a comment.
Director Edwards, I'm just asking because you need to be recognized before speaking. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Um, um, so I do want to apologize for my failure to be more involved in the decision making of how these funds should be allocated. So I do first want to apologize about that. If you can give me some clarity behind our vote today, is there a timeline to where this has to be presented to DESI? Can you give me an answer on that?
Okay, the timeline is that actually September 30th. So we present, so the timeline, basically, we have promised DESI that we're going to use the $6.5 million, that it's encumbered. But if you are tonight reversing that course, we're going to have to turn that money back over to DESI. I do want to say this. this facilities maintenance master planning project that KI is helping us with, it's looking at the district expansive. It's looking at long range, all of our facilities. And we're looking, and Dr. Triplett and I have talked about this, but we're looking at going out for future bond in the next couple of years, bonding to address these other issues, not just Band-Aid type things, but in that master plan, that maintenance, that's going to help address this. So this is a blessing, a great amount of funding that we have available. This is historic, what we're doing. And the fact of the matter is we can't do everything right now, but we've accomplished a lot. This is going to help us accomplish even more. And then we have a plan in this master plan to expand and to address all of our issues district wide. But I would encourage you, the board, and we've got a great board, to be wise with this. These funds, these are funds that are given, that are available to us to address needs in the district. And obviously we do have other needs. The ninth grade center, great point. But there is a plan to address those needs. But we've got to have board support on this. We can't let this money go away like this with these great plans for our
Okay,
students and community.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. I do want to say this in response. I thank you for giving me the timeline. Again, I do apologize for not being more active in this process. That being said, I do want to express my deep concern about safety in our district, and that includes lighting on our premises. Okay, as we go into the daylight savings time, because we have predators all around our communities, and they prey on our children. Unfortunately, that is the reality of it. So that was the way that I was looking at that. Okay, because I do want to make sure that our first and foremost that our children are safe. So I thank you for the clarification in the allocation.
Thank you. Other comments? You are recognized,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Taylor.
And the 1.6 million, now you say that money has not been planned out for anything, it's for what may come up. So is it possible to take some of that $1.6 million and apply that towards the North campus?
So I'm going to answer the question in two different ways. The first way is one of the challenges, if you remember when we were talking about the current project that we just finished, there were decisions made to spend money that there was no planning ahead. What the number four is taking us through a process of planning before we start spending money. If we don't do that, if we just say let's buy lights, but we don't have a plan on how much those lights cost, where we want to touch those lights, what part of the school is going to be affected by those lights, we need to make sure that we have a master plan in place so that we do not allocate these funds incorrectly. These funds can be moved within this area, and the intent was really just to get them encumbered, so that so in the master plan, we do not want to make the mistake of just putting money into a project and then all of a sudden saying, okay, we don't have enough money. That's how we amend the projects. That's how we continue to grow change orders and different things like that. That process is very challenging. So the goal here is to first, let's identify all the issues around the campus, put together a plan and a team that can say, okay, we have HVAC issues at North. We have this issue over here. How much is that going to cost? Then we have a budget. Then you have the information that you can use to go back and say, okay, how do we get this done?
So that being said, it is possible because the money has already been promised to us. So it is possible that changes can be made to this particular work order. Or it's not possible because
There's a possibility that it could be, but it has to stay within
A framework.
within the framework that's here. So
Right,
so
right.
because the master plan, it's pretty broad. We can touch many different facilities from a planning perspective.
And then one final question.
Yes, ma'am.
If the deadline was September the 30th,
Yes, ma'am.
why was this not brought up prior to today? Today is October the 8th.
I had thought
That's been an ongoing conversation with regard to spending ESSA funds, Director Taylor.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
That's been an ongoing conversation that September 30th was the deadline. That's been an ongoing conversation for the last year or so.
Yes, but this is the first time I've seen this particular maintenance worksheet.
No, we did this to let you know where the monies were encumbered, so that you would know where the monies were encumbered prior to September 30th because we had remaining balance.
So,
Thank you.
If I could,
Wait
if
a
I could make,
second. Milton Roberts and then
okay.
Mr. Humphrey.
so I appreciate your clarification. That really helped me a lot, and I do understand the criticality of doing this. May I make a recommendation that as we're doing this, that we do two things. Number one, that we always are thinking about the environment that we're putting our students in. And so, therefore, if there are cosmetic things, i.e., filling the cracks above the lockers, which does not require a lot of money, and then covering it with paint, okay, just simple stuff, all right, so that our kids have a positive learning environment, because that is part of ensuring that they feel like they want to come to school, okay? And so if there are dollars left over to do more than that, great. But the cosmetic stuff, just the basic stuff that says I care or I don't, needs to be addressed every single school year.
Are there other
Yes.
questions or comments?
You know, we're actually talking about two things that are on a parallel track.
Yeah.
One, see, within the district budget, there is a maintenance budget to do things in the buildings. So the first thing we need to get administration to do is walk north and see what cosmetic things can we address with the current budget that we have, that we've already approved. The other reason that the facilities budget is critical is
I'm
the,
sorry.
okay, the other reason why that facilities budget is critical, I cannot tell you the number of times we have been in a construction meeting where there has been deferred maintenance and things that have not been done. When we got ready to do the bathrooms in Central, the sewer pipes were packed with almost 60 to 70% of feces that had not been moved out because of deferred maintenance. Many of you don't know, when you walk from Central to North on that sidewalk, that's actually the roof of a tunnel underneath the ground. There was a gas leak underneath there. So there's all kinds of deferred maintenance. That facilities plan, what it will do, it'll put us in a position where, you know, if we have HVAC issues, see, paint is cheap. That's cosmetic. You can find money for paint. But when you start looking at renovating restrooms, looking at the plumbing, the piping, central air conditioning, you need that facilities plan, because right now the two oldest buildings in the district is Belnor and North. And so with that facilities plan, what you have to do is bring in individuals that are skilled in those areas to look at all your buildings and put together a plan that says, going forward, here's what you got. So if we have to do a bond issue to do things, we would then have a dedicated facility plan, knowing exactly what we need to do, exactly how much it will cost. If you remember at the beginning of this presentation, I said it's my goal to squeeze these numbers to find extra dollars. We want to get this done, but I want to squeeze the budget, because if there's money to be found, I'm going to find it. And so that's the commitment I'm making to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. Yes, sir, we've got a. Mr. Will, the people watching online can't hear you. If you could come to the mic, that would be great.
Excuse me for that. Some of the things you're trying to address, we already got a plan for. We have hired 2 guys as of 8/17 with carpentry-like skills. We have 1 currently painting at Jefferson. We have 1 Obama, 1 at Obama. I could move north up to take care of some cosmetic stuff. I have a guy that has the skill sets to hang stalls, do floors in bathrooms. I have a plumber for sinks. I can't do a full renovation. I can't do the HVAC right now, but I can do all the hole patching, painting, making the locker safe. I can do a lot of the cosmetic stuff. It's in a plan already. But like I said, currently Jefferson and Obama, we got guys going to nights doing that work at night. And we could move north up as opposed to throwing that money back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for sharing that.
Are there other questions or comments before we call for a vote?
I think we're
Thank
ready to vote.
Thank you. Ms. Rigsby.
The revote on the floor is to use the remaining ESSER funds. President Hodge,
Yes.
Vice President Humphrey,
Yes.
Secretary Taylor,
I'll say yes. I'm trusting you all.
Director Edwards,
Said in my comments.
Yes.
Director Pearson,
Yes.
Director Milton Roberts,
Yes.
Director Dr. Petty.
No.
The yes has it.
Thank you, and thank you for your service and your presentation this evening. Moving to item 8, items for consent. All of our board has been supplied with these items for consent listed here. I will ask at this time that we move to item 9.01 and entertain a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have a discussion.
That is Director Edwards.
Yes, I would like to ask if this board can assign or establish a policy committee. We have had come before us quite a few policies, and we understand that these policies are recommended by the partners that MSBA. But I do believe that we are a unique district and we need unique guidelines within our district. So I'm asking that we can establish a policy committee.
The policy person, Ms. Taylor, with board representation.
With board representation?
Yeah.
Is it on there? Who's the board representation for the policy committee?
Ms. Taylor.
Ms. Taylor. You are? Okay. Well, disregard.
No, that's great. It's a question and it is recognized. Thank you. Other questions or comments?
Well, the one question I would have, and we don't necessarily have to resolve it today, but she brought up an interesting issue. As a board, we need to be very intentional about standing up board committees. And so at some future date, we need to have a conversation around what board committees do we think we need to make operational to help move the work along. So at some point, we can come back and look at that.
Are there any questions related to the consent agenda?
No.
Great, thank you. At this time, we will entertain a roll call vote. Ms. Rigsby, please.
The vote on the floor is for the approval of the consent agenda.
Yes.
I'm sorry, let me get my list, please. Director Dr. Petty,
Yes.
Director Milton Roberts,
Yes.
Director Pearson,
Yes.
Director Edwards,
No.
Secretary Taylor,
Abstain.
Vice President Humphrey,
Yes.
and President Hodge.
Yes.
The yes has it.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item 10, Joint Executive Governance Board announcements and comments. We'll start with Dr. Petty.
Good evening. I want to thank everyone in attendance tonight for enduring what I believe to be is a lengthy board meeting. However, I will be brief in my comments. I want to start tonight by thanking my fellow board members in joining me in making a motion and seconding that motion and approving a motion to ensure that the Gateway Chess League would be here again this year in the Normandy Schools Collaborative, hosting a most inviting chess tournament, of which many of our students participate, and many of our students have benefited from this interaction. And we have with us tonight Mr. Sam Cases from the Gateway Chess League. And I just wanted to recognize him as he is here. He sat through this meeting in appreciation for the board's gesture to ensure that this tournament would be here free of charge. So I just wanted to thank the board and making sure that that happened for the Gateway Chess League. In addition, I want to thank the board on behalf of Normandy City Councilman Rick Nelson, who couldn't be here tonight because tonight is also the Normandy City Council Board meeting. I just want the board to know that this particular chess tournament it extends beyond the bounds of Normandy Schools Collaborative in that City Councilman Rick Nelson just had chess tables placed out in front of Afro World on Natural Bridge where students can come by and find something constructive to do on days like today when the weather is nice. It's just a deterrent from the usual distractions that we find our youngsters getting themselves in. So I also want to thank the owners of Afro World for participating in this effort. It would have been a travesty had the collaborative and this board not participated in ensuring that this chess tournament. So I want to personally thank every member of the board for that. Again, being brief in my comments, I had the opportunity to visit one of our schools. And I first want to compliment Washington Elementary because of the welcoming environment that was there in the front office. And I'm wondering and I'm hoping that all of our offices and all of our schools and all of our departments are this welcoming to our constituents, our board members, our families, our students. I hope that all of our schools have such a warm welcome immediately upon entering the building, as was the case in Washington. As if that weren't enough, I was pleasantly surprised by the fact upon speaking with the secretary, they let me know exactly where the principal was in the building. I had the opportunity to observe the principal interact with a teacher, conducting a data meeting, reviewing a prior classroom observation, and really putting forth some real professional development to develop that teacher and to implement those instructional strategies and delivery methods that were most appropriate, grade level appropriate for the students. So it was wonderful to see Principal Hollins in that role and to see her doing exactly what principals need to be doing. And I heard several board members tonight pose questions about how can we support district staff members. And I'm asking this board to make sure that we are supporting our building principals like Dr. Hollins and like Dr. West, all of these principles that upon uh, immediate observation, you know that teaching and learning are happening in their buildings. I apologize if I haven't been to all of the schools, but I will be there to see, and I hope to make similar comments about your building as well. But tonight, my comments are to place emphasis on the fact that I believe that we, the board, need to hear from principals. And just as you asked the individuals that spoke before us tonight, how can you support them? We need to hear from our principals and support the principals and get behind the great work that they're doing. Upon leaving the classroom where Principal Hollins was working with the teacher, I saw students transitioning in the hallway appropriately, quietly, and in a civilized manner. I saw students engaged in an on-site field trip. The original school field trip is to the school library. And it may not be a believe room, but I believe that there was some teaching and learning going on in that library that day. And this is why I believe we need to get behind our principals. We need to ask them what they need. We need to hear from them. We need to read the supervisory reports that they send in every week and answer and respond. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the parent, Deanna Davis Day, who was here. I don't know if she's still here, but I want to thank her for engaging in the civil process of expressing and asking that her concerns be heard. I, for one, have been asking this board and this board president to make sure that we are responsive to not only requests and questions and documentation from parents, but also from the district staff. And I believe that that responsiveness should go beyond patronizing. We should actually seek to give people a real resolution, solve and resolve their issues and concerns to the best of our ability. So I thank you all for enduring this meeting tonight, and thank you for this opportunity to comment and serve on this elected board.
Thank you, Dr. Petty. Director Milton Roberts.
I'd also like to say thank you to everyone, and I'm going to piggyback on what you were saying about chess. Afro World is a very special place in our community, and they've got three of the brand new chess tables that you were talking about. And I just want to make sure that you know that they're there in part to honor Russ Little, who is the founder of Afro World. Okay. Sheila Forrest is a wonderful, wonderful leader in our community, and really is working to help us to engage our students. So stop by, support her. She's had them playing chess inside already. And so now she's got the chess tables outside. So please do support that. I also wanted to say that I had the pleasure of going to the high school, and I always like going to the high school. But one of the reasons I really like going to the high school is because they have a brand new library, and we have a new librarian, Cole Hartsfeld. And he came in and he just had boxes and boxes and boxes of books. And I felt so sorry for him, and he has stood up the most magnificent library. I think he has like one picture to hang or something like that. And he's ordered new books, and the kids have found the library. And so when I walked in, the library was buzzing. There were kids in there reading, and he had an introduction where you came in and you could see the new books. That's the kind of thing we need to be doing around literacy. So I appreciate you for supporting him because he said you found money for him. So I appreciate that. And the library looks fantastic. If you haven't seen it, please do go by. And then lastly, I want to say shout out and kudos to Belnor. We were there for the Believe project, and that was amazing. Not only did they feed us, but it looked beautiful, and we got to hear the young people sing. They have a beautiful choir. And it was just really, really exciting. I actually spent the morning there and was actually late, really late, going to work because I wanted to hang out with them. So that's what we want to see. And we just so appreciate the principals for doing all that they do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Pearson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm gonna try to keep it brief. Um, but I'm keeping up. Anyway, homecoming is this weekend. Friday, the Normandy High School Alumni Association is having a meet and greet at the high school rotunda from 5 to 8 p.m. Light refreshments, another school tour, and you will be able to meet the association members. All are welcome. Everyone in the community, staff, students, everybody. The parade in the game is this Saturday. The parade starts at 9 a.m. The link for sign up is still available. Shout out to Mr. Trahan because he still has that link up and available. The game starts at 1 p.m. We're playing University City. I've said it plenty of times. I graduated from Normandy almost 20 years ago, but I'm only 25. Um, and we have never played U City at home, so this game is big, very big. We played them at they homecoming last year, so we playing them at homecoming this year. The alumni bonfire is back. It is from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. at 10035 Crown Point. My next announcement, election day, is 28 days away. The last day to register is tomorrow, October 9th. In person, no excuse absentee voting is begins October 22nd, and the last day to request mailed absentee ballots is October 23rd. This is a major election, but all elections are important. So let's look at these people who are in these positions, from the judges to the council people to the school board members to everybody, and let's put the right people in a good place. Welcome to the International Teachers. Thank you for coming to our community. We love you and thank you. I did have the pleasure to attend the ribbon cutting for the Believe Project, and it was great. I love books. I am a book person. If you know me, you know that I love a good book. I don't care what it's about. If you're just gonna give it to me, if I gotta go find it, I'm gonna get it. So to have that option for our students in our school district, and more than one option coming, that is great. Um, shameless plug to Ready Readers. They're still looking for neighborhood reading captains for Pine Line and Wellston. I am also a neighborhood reading captain for Ready Readers. Um, Today, Dr. Sutton mentioned we have a lot of work to do, and we need to work collectively and hold each other accountable in doing their work because it's not about us; it's about our students, our children. Social emotional learning was mentioned a various of times. I'm glad that it's on the table and not other subjects. My last comment is, stop putting negative mouths on subjects without facts and with your own agenda, because have no clue how God gonna step in and show out. That's all I got. Good night.
Thank you, Director. Director Edwards,
No comment.
Director Taylor.
I'd just like to thank each and every one of you all for being a part of this meeting on tonight. And the board meetings are very, very important. The things that we discuss are important, and they are important to our students, to our staff, to our superintendent, and important to the board, and is important to the community. On Saturday, I got in my car, and just for a couple of minutes, I'm not sure who the speaker was, but he was on the radio with what's his name, Freeman Bosley, and he was talking about the St. Louis public schools and what had happened there. And for some strange reason, he decided to bring up the Normandy Schools Collaborative. Well, that caught my attention when he said that, and I felt like you were throwing us up under the bus because we had nothing to do with what happened at the St. Louis Public Schools. And so I want to say to the Normandy School Collaborative, to the family, to each and every one of you, let's do the very best that we can to make Normandy a great school district. Yes, we have been ostracized. Yes, we've been talked about. Many things have been said about the Normandy School District for years. And sometimes you can even meet people and you say, oh, I'm in the Normandy School District, and they kind of give you a frown. But I don't accept that because I say we're working. And when I say we, it takes all of us. And at the beginning of my campaign 2 years ago, I said it then and I'll say it now. It still takes a village to raise a child. And so I just say to you all, continue to do what you can. I do just want to put this out here. We know daylight savings time is coming up. We know that it gets dark earlier. Ladies, please be careful. Please don't be out at night by yourself. And if you are, try to get to your car and get to your house as soon as possible. And some of you all may not listen to the news. We have a lot of people that are missing. They're missing. And so during this time of the year, we have a lot of predators that are out there. They're seeking to rob and steal, kill, and to destroy. But I say to you, keep doing what you do. Let's hold one another up. Yes, we may not agree on everything. Why? Because we're all different individuals. But guess what? We have one purpose in mind, and that is to make sure that we come together and that we do everything that we can for the Normandy School Collaborative. And don't forget, pray one for another. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Humphrey.
Well, first of all, I think it's been a very full evening. I would first of all want to say thank you to my board colleagues because what we saw was a demonstration of tension, and tension creates growth. And so, so from that standpoint, uh, I wasn't upset. I wasn't appalled. I saw growth because we leaned into a subject that we had strong opinions about. That's going to happen again on some other subject. So I thank each one of you for leaning in the way that you did, because I think at the end of the day, when we get to where we need to get to, we're going to have outcomes that the entire community is pleased with. I'm extremely excited about the international teachers. I had an opportunity to be there when we had the welcome for them at the high school. They are extremely excited to be here. I had a chance to talk to them this evening before the meeting. They are excited to be here. As I look around the room, here's what I'm going to say in closing. We have got to learn how to educate the whole child. What do I mean by that? When they don't do see, I tell high school students, you have 4 years to figure life out because life is coming after senior year. You got 4 years to figure it out. At the middle school level, they got what, seven? Well, you got 6, 7, 8. They got 3, so they got a total of 7 years to figure life out. We have got to teach our students how to self-manage because when I went over the first day of school, I looked at the yonder cart. Probably 50% of what they had been torn up and wrecked. My first response was, is that on somebody's account because they need to pay for it? We need to figure out how to teach our children how to self-manage because you can't go through life tearing it up when you don't like it. So whatever we need to do to communicate to our students, to our family, to our community, we're better than this. So once again, I appreciate all the work that's been done and everything that's here. So I'm going to stop right there.
Thank you, Vice President Humphrey. The message for me tonight came from one of our international teachers from the Philippines. She said, "We all are a work in progress." Thank you for your patience. Superintendent.
I don't even want to speak after that. In fact, um, we all have years of experience in our respective positions and our respective uh, areas. But what we miss a lot is the point. And the point of education is to ready our students for life after school. That includes teaching them the rules. But we often ask people to weigh in on what their rules should be, not giving any thoughts around what the reward should be for doing right. I have a saying in my office that says behaviors without consequences is permission. So we often let things slide by and we don't course correct things. We talk about cell phones. Since I arrived in the district, we've done several things to combat cell phones from being a distraction in our schools. We use yonder pouches, and to Mr. Humphrey's conversation, they've been damaged. Year after year, we did this 2 years in a row, and each year they're damaged. We've had conversations with students and parents around keeping cell phones just put up in your pockets and turned off. But teachers are still fighting that battle in the classrooms, and I don't want teachers addressing 80% of their classroom time fighting cell phone issues. So communication went out, and the last ditch effort is parents, we need your help. Students, we need your help. When you're on the campus, turn your phones off, put them away. When you leave campus, turn them back on. My team and I will be closely monitoring cell phone violations for the next month. And at the next month's JEGB meeting, I will be making a recommendation as to where we should go with cell phones and every meeting thereafter, just to make sure that we're not out of compliance with cell phones and that we're focusing on the right stuff. We're putting so much emphasis on cell phones because they're a distraction. Many of our surrounding school districts have really strong cell phone policies. Some have even banished cell phones. Cell phones are really tearing our community down in our schools. The other thing about cell phones is that violence surrounds cell phones. A lot of people don't understand that spectatorship during those activities is a crime. In many states, is a misdemeanor, and you can be punished just like a person who actually did the crime, especially if used inappropriately. And we have a lot of that. So we're, as a last ditch effort again, we're asking parents and students, when you walk on the premises of our schools, just turn your phones off and put them away and allow instruction and quality things to happen in the buildings. But we can't give you quality programming when we're fighting against a cell phone. That's our biggest fight, a cell phone. But it's stopping us from progress. It's stopping us from educating students. It's stopping us from teaching. So let's work together, do what we need to do so that our kids can have a promising future and focus on what we need to focus on today so that we can be better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. My commitment to you is that we will not have another 3-hour meeting.
So
I am going to make this commitment tonight. You will have a different president moving forward. We have been totally disrespectful to the people in this room and their time. We will no longer do that. It is 9:03. I will entertain a motion to adjourn this session and move to executive
so
session.
move.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed have the same privilege. We have